lapha ku 36.9 billion emalangeni masonto ngasi 32.6 billion wemalangeni eminyakeni lophelile. Kanti ke sithemba mbukele ekhaya ukuthi kulomnyaka losetulu emaphakelo atawuba ngilawo lakhulako njengoba sathi ukuthi kunetintfo letiningi lekufanele ukuthi live liconnect izuze lokufaka ekhatsi leto ingwenyama mswati wesithathu letfumeke iParliament kanye ke nahulumende ukuthi abasebentele ukuthi live likhone ukuthi likuzuze lokufaka ekhatsi yona indzaba ukuthi emaphilisi etibhedlela akabe khona kungaphinze kushode wona emaphilisi etibhedlela telive. Ngiyama yaphindze yatsinza indzaba yokuthi kufanele kwentiwe isiqiniseko kona emathuba emisebenti kufanele kwentiwe isiqiniseko ukuthi kwakhiwa emathuba emisebenti eveni. Imbube emhlaba yaphindze yakhuluma ke ngendzaba yokucedzelwa kwato takhiwo kanye ke nekwakhiwa kwayo iParliament lesigadzile ukuthi kukhona leyakusho indvuna nangakulolu hlangothi kanti ke nayo indzaba yokucedzela yona iICC fish bese ithatha isikhathi soloko ingapheli sithemba ukuthi nako lokho emaphakelweni nayo indvuna atawukhona ukuthi avele. Kanti ke lenye indzaba lekhona legatswe ngalokubovu ngamahlola abovu kuyona ke kiyo inkulumo yendvuna ngiyo indzaba yekukhuliswa kwamaholo etisebenti tembuso njengoba siyakhumbula ukuthi eminyakeni lophelile kwaphasaya ukuthi amaholo kufanele ukuthi akhule noko kwakhuliswa ke ngencenye letsite. Sithemba ukuthi lo nyaka tisebenti tembuso titawujabula njengoba indvuna yelitiko letemafa umhlonishwa Neal Rijkenburg bekile ukuthi isathula ke yona emaphakelo itsinze nayo indzaba yokuthi ingabe tisebenti tembuso titawuzuza kanjani kiwo lawa maphakelo. Kanti ke ngakulokunye induna yelitiko letemafa ivetile ukuthi lamaphakelo lamuhla anesicubulo lesithi agapelafu lokusho kona ukuthi lutsandvo uhulumende ulumikisa kiso sive sesiswatini noma sive sonke semaswati. Kanti ke ngakulokunye ngwenyama mswati wesithathu ngiyo ke lephakamisele isicubulo lesikuthi lo mnyaka losetulu live litabe lisebentela ke esicubulweni selitsandvo lolungenamincino noma litsandvo lolungenako ukuthi lube netincabekelwane iphakamiseke lesicubulo lesi nayivula yona iParliament yasisho ke lesicubulo khona ke ngelilanga kunenkonzo lapha esigodlweni kalozitha lapho khona bekwathi kuyinkonzo yekucala wona nyaka. Sithemba ukuthi mbukeli utawuba nelithuba lelihle kakhulu nemsakato ichayile emaswati lapho khona sitabe sikulethela bukhoma wona lo msebenzi lo lesikulethela wona. Kanti ke seyivele silungele ukuthi kucale wona ke umsebenzi njengoba indvuna yelitiko letemafa seyivele ikhona endlini. Hlala nathi emsakatweni ichayile emaswati sithemba ukuthi kutawuba kuhle bese siyabuya futhi sikhulumisana nabalunga eParliament ukuthi ngabe athi kuhamba kanjani.
2027. The sixth one, it's the financial audit report on the consolidated government accounts of the Kingdom of Eswatini for the financial year ended 1st March 2025. All these reports are going to be tabled by the Honourable Minister for Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Minister for Finance.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, with your permission, leave the House. May I please table the budget speech for 2026, the budget estimates book from the 1st of April 2026 to the 31st of March 2029, the Treasury Annual Report for the financial year ending 31st of March 2025, the Eswatini Revenue Services Report for the financial year ended 31st of March 2025, the Establishment Register for the financial year ended 31st of March 2026 to 2027, and the Financial Audit Report on the consolidated government accounts of the Kingdom of Eswatini for the financial year 1st of March 2025.
Thank you very much, Minister. Please go ahead and table the reports as read. Siyabonga kakhulu, Minister. Angathi bakuhleka ngoba vele singawe namuhla. Siyabonga nduna yembuso. Mr. Clerk.
Honourable members, on page 2 of the order paper, we have tabling of bills. The first bill to be tabled, it's the Appropriation Bill 2026, Bill number 1 of 2026. The second one is the Supplementary Bill 2026, Bill number 2 of 2026. All these bills are going to be tabled by the Honourable Minister for Finance.
Sibonga, Mr. Clerk. Nduna yehloniphekile yetemafa.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, with your permission, I leave the House. May I please table the Appropriation Bill 2026, Bill number 1 of 2026, and the Supplementary Bill 2026, Bill number 2 of 2026. And Honourable Speaker, they both come with certificates of urgency.
Thank you, Minister. Please go ahead, Minister, and table the bills. Sibonge nduna yehloniphekile yetemafa, Mr. Clerk.
Honourable members, the next item on the order paper, we have a government bill, the Appropriation Bill 2026, Bill number 1 of 2026, first reading, presented with a certificate of urgency by the Honourable Minister for Finance.
Sibonge, Mr. Clerk. Nduna yehloniphekile yetemafa, when is the second reading?
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. With your permission, leave the House. May it please be forthwith.
Sibonge nduna yehloniphekile bahlonishwa, it has been moved that the second reading be forthwith. Labavumelana naloko abathi aye. Labangavumi bathi nay. The ayes have it and the ayes have it. Mr. Clerk.
The Appropriation Bill 2026, Bill number 1 of 2026, second reading by the Honourable Minister for Finance.
Asibonge, Mr. Clerk. Induna yehloniphekile yetemafa sengiso lesikhathi nduna la kufanele khona uchubeke nemsebenzi wakho webudget seyingachubeka induna.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's my singular honour and profound responsibility to stand before this August House to present the national budget estimates for the 2026-2027 financial year at this third session of the 12th Parliament of the Kingdom of Eswatini. I rise this morning deeply conscious of the times that we live in. Across the world, nations are navigating uncertainty, geopolitical tensions are redefining alliances, global trade is being reshaped, supply chains remain fragile, and economic nationalism is testing long-standing international arrangements. What once appeared predictable is now fluid. What once seemed stable is now contested. Mr. Speaker, in the midst of the shifting global landscape, the Kingdom of Eswatini stands firm, anchored in faith, guided by wise leadership, and strengthened by unity. Mr. Speaker, I give all thanks and glory to our Heavenly Father. We thank Him for the spirit of unity that prevails over our nation. This year, we are guided by the principle of agape, the highest form of love, which seeks the well-being of others above oneself. As the word reminds us in 1 John 3:18, dear children, let not love with words and speech, but with actions and in truth. This budget is designed to be that action. It is a testament of our commitment to love and serve every Leswati in truth. The theme this year of our speech is agape love, love in action for economic transformation. Agape love is not sentiment. It's not passive. It is sacrificial. It is disciplined. It's responsible. It's the kind of love that chooses the greater good over personal comfort. It's the love that builds institutions, strengthens families, pays taxes honestly, fights corruption, and serves the nation faithfully. Mr. Speaker, a budget is more than numbers. It's a moral contract. It reveals what we value. It reflects who we choose to protect. It determines the future that we are building. This year's budget is built on agape love. Love for the child in the rural classroom. Love for the unemployed seeking opportunity. Love for the farmer battling climate shocks. Love for the worker who rises before dawn. Love for the elderly citizen who depends on dignity. And love for future generations who will inherit the consequences of our fiscal decisions. His Majesty the King has consistently called upon us to build a nation of unity, discipline, and integrity. During the opening of Parliament, His Majesty has reminded us that service delivery must improve, corruption must be uprooted, medicines must be supplied, and the youth must be empowered. This budget responds directly to that call. Mr. Speaker, agape love also demands accountability and good stewardship. We cannot seek to love while tolerating waste. We cannot speak of prosperity while enabling corruption. We cannot speak of progress while avoiding discipline. Mr. Speaker, never before in recent history has the global order appeared so uncertain. Protectionism is rising. Major economies are reprioritizing domestic interests. Aid flows are being reduced. Major trade agreements are under strain. Climate shocks are intensifying. Small open economies like ours cannot control these global forces, but we can control our response. Our response is this: we'll strengthen domestic revenue mobilization. We'll protect fiscal sustainability. We will invest deliberately in growth. We will accelerate reforms, and we'll build resilience. While others retreat inwards, Eswatini moves forward with clarity and courage. We are building dams and irrigation schemes. We are building digital systems and financial transparency. We are building energy independence. We are building factory shells and manufacturing capacity. We are building institutions that will outlive us. We are building a culture of accountability. Mr. Speaker, over the last several years, we prioritized stabilization, strengthening reserves, improving debt management, upgrading our credit rating, firming up tax administration, and restoring investor confidence. That foundation is now bearing fruit. This budget marks a transition from stability to acceleration. It's a pro-growth, pro-discipline, pro-investment budget. We are increasing capital expenditure because we understand that growth is not accidental, it is constructed. Infrastructure, energy security, water security, digital systems, and industrial capacity are not expenses. These are investments in national productivity. But growth without discipline makes us fragile. Therefore, while we invest boldly, we must remain fiscally prudent. Agape loves demand that we do not burden our children with reckless debt. Mr. Speaker, one of the most significant institution reforms undertaken by government in recent years is the successful implementation of the first release of the Integrated Financial Management System, referring to UMSEBE IFMIS. For the first time, ministries and departments utilized a fully integrated digital platform for planning and budgeting. This reform marks a decisive shift towards program-based budgeting, enhanced fiscal discipline, real-time expenditure monitoring, and strengthened accountability. The system reduces opportunity for waste and irregular expenditure, it improves transparency, and aligns public spending directly with the National Development Plan and the Programme of Action. UMSEBE is not merely a technical upgrade, is a structural reform that will permanently improve how government manages public resources. Mr. Speaker, after years of planning, construction, and strategic investment, the International Conference Centre will be officially opened on the 25th of April 2026 and opened by His Majesty the King. This milestone represents far more than the completion of infrastructure. It symbolizes Eswatini's ambition to position itself as a premium regional destination for conferences, trade expos, and international events. Its completion reflects government's long-term vision of diversifying the economy and strengthening the country's presence in regional and global platforms. Mr. Speaker, government has taken decisive action to addressing long-standing challenges with the availability of medicines in public health facilities. The legislation transforming the central medical stores to a standalone statutory entity has now been passed. This reform will establish an accountable, professionally managed institution with end-to-end visibility of medicine procurement, storage, and distribution across government. The new structure will modernize supply chain management, reduce stockouts, improve forecasting accuracy, and strengthen governance. This transformation is a critical step towards restoring confidence in the health system and ensuring reliable access to essential medicines for all eMaswati. Mr. Speaker, through an important revenue administration reform, government has raised the declaration thresholds at our borders to 10,000 emalangeni. This policy adjustment has encouraged greater compliance and transparency among travellers and traders. Early indications show that marked increase in declaration of goods, strengthening customs monitoring, and positive impacting of the SACU-related receipts. By simplifying compliance while targeting enforcement, this reform improves revenue integrity without increasing tax rates. It reflects our broader strategy of widening the tax base through compliance rather than burdening the already compliant taxpayers. Mr. Speaker, the implementation of a comprehensive salary review marks a significant milestone in strengthening morale, fairness, and professionalism amongst the public service. Following extensive consultations with the Joint Negotiations Forum, government implemented Scenario 3 of the Salary Review Report, including phased adjustments and structured back pay arrangements. This reform addressed long-standing disparities, particularly with the security forces and critical public service sectors, while maintaining fiscal sustainability through a staggered implementation. A motivated and fairly compensated public service is essential for improved service delivery, institutional stability, and economic confidence. Mr. Speaker, the government's made structural progress in expanding domestic energy generation capacity through recently signed power purchase and grid connection agreements. These include solar projects, a 40-megawatt biomass facility, and the Lower Makutuza hydropower plant, all currently advancing towards implementation. These projects will significantly diversify our energy mix, reduce dependency on imported electricity, create employment opportunities, enhance tariff stability, and support industrial growth. Energy security is a prerequisite for sustainable economic development, and these energy investments position Eswatini firmly on a path towards greater renewable energy independence and environmental sustainability. In addition, the government has issued notices of intent to award contracts of up to 1,000 megawatts to 9 independent power producers. These IPPs are currently at various stages of project development, and the government expects to finalize the awards within the current financial year. Mr. Speaker, Eswatini's economic growth trajectory remains encouraging, supported by infrastructure expansion, private sector investment, manufacturing recovery, and public sector reforms. The economy has demonstrated resilience despite global uncertainty. Sustained growth strengthens government's revenues, improves debt sustainability, and creates employment opportunities for our people. Importantly, this growth is increasingly supported by capital investments and productivity improvements rather than consumption alone. Maintaining this momentum remains central to our medium-term fiscal strategy. Mr. Speaker, and institutional reforms that enhance the ease of doing business. The operationalization of the business one-stop shop, improvements in customs processing times, and the enhanced financial sector regulations have reduced transaction costs and improved predictability for investors. The oversubscription of our sovereign bonds and sustained capital inflows further affirm that Eswatini is increasingly viewed as a credible, stable, and investor-ready destination. Mr. Speaker, agape love means celebrating progress but not becoming complacent. We still face youth unemployment, high poverty levels, climate vulnerability that's decimating our road infrastructure and agriculture, and global trade uncertainties. Therefore, this budget is not a celebration of arrival, it's a declaration of intent. In sub-Saharan Africa, growth is projected to remain steady at 4.1% in 2025. President Trump signed legislation reauthorizing AGOA through to December 31st, 2026. This one-year extension provides limited continuity for duty-free access to the US market for eligible nations, backdated to September 30, 2025. The Eswatini economy has remained resilient despite ongoing economic challenges. In 2024, real GDP growth is expected to moderate at 3%, down from 3.5% in 2023, reflecting weaker consumption demand, resulting in the contraction of 3.3% in wholesale and retail trade services, as well as reduced agricultural activities due to a decline in animal production. However, it was partly offset by a strong rebound in manufacturing, which grew 7.8%, supported by improved external demand and agro-processing activities due to a strong recovery in crop production. Mr. Speaker, preliminary estimates of 2025 reflect a GDP growth of 5.6%, anchored by robust public and private sector investments in line with the implementation of infrastructure development plans. Major infrastructure projects, including the Mbageni Dam, under the Konungwavuma Water Augmentation Project, energy projects, expanded ICT services, sustained growth momentum in the manufacturing industry, and private sector investments boosting the construction sector by 17.1%. Wholesale and retail activities grew by 9.7%, boosted by consumer demand and rising real wages in the public sector, which contributed 1.35 percentage points to the 2025 growth. Manufacturing also recorded sustained growth of 2.9% in 2025, underpinned by increased activity in the textile sector, food processing, and other manufacturing industries, which include domestic appliances and non-metal products. The information and communication sector expanded significantly by 38.2%, reflecting continued investment in digital infrastructure. On the negative side, the mining sector posted poor performance, declining by 1.3% in 2025, reversing the strong growth record in 2024. Despite a 12.9% rise in international arrivals, accommodation services remain subdued due to reduced conferencing activity linked to the freeze in foreign-funded programs. The medium-term outlook remains cautiously optimistic, with growth projected at 5.2% in 2026, supported by sustained public and private investments. Key growth drivers include major infrastructure projects such as the Strategic Oil Reserve, the construction of the MR14 and MR21, which is a 110-kilometer road connecting Spofaneni to Nsogo and Maloma to Spanbanweni. The central bank headquarters, the Manzini Mall, renewable energy initiatives, and the continued implementation of the Mbageni Dam, amongst others. Moreover, the manufacturing industry is anticipated to benefit from increased external demand and private investment, while agriculture is expected to remain resilient despite climate-related challenges. The tertiary sector is also projected to benefit from the continued investment in ICT services, transportation, and tourism. However, downside risks remain elevated. These include heightened global uncertainty, leading to commodity price volatility and trade disruptions, which may constrain export-orientated sectors. Additionally, climate-related shocks pose significant risks to agriculture production and could delay the implementation of major construction projects. Mr. Speaker, inflationary pressure remains generally contained in 2025. Annual consumer inflation averaged 3.2% in the 11 months to November 2025, down from 4% over the same period in 2024, with inflation in the second half of the year constantly below 3%. This moderation was mainly driven by lower food and transport inflation, reflecting declines in the prices of key food items such as rice and dairy products, as well as slower increases in sugar and reductions in domestic fuel prices. Transport inflation also eased in line with lower fuel costs and lower increases in vehicle purchasing prices, supported by a decline of about 15% in international Brent crude oil. In addition, price increases for housing, rentals and utilities moderated in 2025 compared to 2024. However, upward price pressures are observed in alcoholic beverages and tobacco, largely reflecting higher sin taxes. In the medium term, international oil prices are expected to remain broadly stable, implying a muted impact on domestic headline inflation, particularly for transport and food components. Nonetheless, recent public sector wage adjustments, higher bread prices, and lingering base effects are projected to exert upward pressure on domestic inflation. As a result, inflation is expected to rise modestly to about 4% in 2026 and 3.8% in 2027, compared to an outturn of 3.2% in 2025. Mr. Speaker, Eswatini's external sector position is projected to weaken in 2025, with the current account surplus declining from 1.9 billion emalangeni in 2024 to about 546 million. This narrowing of the surplus is mainly driven by a faster increase in imports than exports, reflecting higher demand for imported goods and services associated with the implementation of mega projects. The acceleration of imports of both goods and services is expected to persist into 2026, thereby exerting additional pressure on the current account. Furthermore, Eswatini continues to be a net recipient of foreign direct investment from the rest of the world, which supports capital formation and job creation, but also results in higher outflows in the income account in the form of dividends and interest payments to foreign investors. SACU is expected to increase by 13% in the 2026-2027 financial year, rising from this year's 10.4 billion emalangeni to 11.7 billion emalangeni. In addition, the secondary income account surplus is also projected to decline to 11.8 billion in 2025 from 13.6 billion in 2024, reflecting a 20.4% reduction in SACU receipts for the 2025-2026 relative to the 2024-2025 financial year. Governments will continue to closely monitor developments in the external sector and pursue policies that strengthen export performance, promote domestic production, and safeguard external sustainability. Mr. Speaker, in 2025, the Central Bank of Eswatini pursued an accommodative monetary policy stance in support of economic recovery and also reduced the discount rate by a cumulative 25 basis points from 7% to 6.75% in May 2025, maintaining this stance to date. This easing was broadly aligned with a moderation in global and regional monetary policy conditions, subdued domestic inflation outcomes, and the improved inflation outlook for the domestic economy. The accommodative stance aims to stimulate economic recovery activity while maintaining inflation within acceptable levels. Moody's Ratings maintained Eswatini long-term currency issuer rating at B2 with a stable outlook in November 2025. The stable outlook reflects expectations that the government will continue making progress in addressing fiscal challenges, maintaining political stability, and preserving macroeconomic stability. The government continued to raise funding under the 4 billion JSE South African Rand bond program. During 2025, government raised 784 million South African rands, bringing the cumulative amount raised from the JSE to 1.184 billion South African rands. Going forward, the government is expected to return to South African capital market for further issuances, capitalizing on the decreasing interest rate environment and the broader investor base available in South Africa. In addition, the government continued to mobilize funding in the domestic market through the issuance of bonds and treasury bills. The increased frequency of issuing T-bills improved market performance in 2025, with subscriptions and allotment rates at 160% and 110% respectively. Bond performance was also strong, supported by the relaunch of the infrastructure bond, which recorded an allotment rate of 125%, signaling sustained investor confidence in government securities. The country's gross official reserves continued to increase between April and November 2025, supported by stable cycle receipts, higher import-earning remittances, and foreign exchange proceeds from external funding for government projects. In July 2025, the central bank successfully acquired its first monetary gold, further boosting and diversifying reserves while providing a hedge against geopolitical risks. As a result, gross official reserves averaged 11.5 billion emalangeni between April and November 2025, reaching a peak of 15.5 billion in November 2025 compared to an average of 10.2 billion during the same period in 2024. The reserves import cover also improved, rising from an average of 2.7 months in April to November 2024 to 2.8 months in April to November 2025, with a peak of 3.6 months in November 2025. In the short to medium term, reserves are expected to be further supported by an increase in cycle receipts in the 2026-2027 financial year. Provisional banking licenses were issued to Letshego Bank, Eswatini, and Swaziland Building Society Bank, Eswatini, expanding access to financial services. Progress was also made in sustainable finance through the development of the Eswatini Green Finance Taxonomy, alongside the implementation of a trade verification system. Digital transformation advanced through improved management of private sector external debt and regulatory approvals, while financial inclusion was supported by removing charges on the first digital wallet withdrawal per transaction effective March 2025. Significant progress was achieved in strengthening the national payment system in line with regional harmonization goals. The central bank, working with government and supported by the World Bank, drafted national payment system regulations to operationalize the National Payment Systems Act of 2023. These regulations will enable the licensing of a broader range of payment service providers than what prevails at present. Implementation of the Eswatini payment switch continued with all banks and non-bank participants, which is now connected to the FOS payment platform, enabling instant domestic payments 24/7. And further expansion is planned to include QR code payments that will enable merchants and government payments that will be processed seamlessly using your smartphone. In essence, what used to take up to 24 hours to transfer money between banks now takes 2 seconds. Mr. Speaker, the Eswatini banking sector remains broadly resilient, supported by adequate capital and liquidity buffers. As at September 2025, the capital adequacy ratio stood at 15.8%, well above the minimum regulatory requirement of 8%. While the sector remained profitable, the non-performing loans ratio increased slightly to 7.1% in September 2025. Liquidity conditions improved, with the liquid assets to deposit ratio reaching 34.3% during the review period. Although concentration risks remain elevated, stress test results confirm resilience to moderate shocks. However, vulnerabilities to large borrower defaults persist. The insurance and pension sectors continue to serve as important stability anchors within the financial system. Pension funds assets increased by 11.4% to 55.8 billion emalangeni, representing 57.1% of GDP and 34.4% of total financial sector assets. While investment portfolios remain diversified, elevated exposure to government securities and foreign equities increased market and concentration risks. Capital market assets rose by 17.7% to 41 billion emalangeni. However, low market liquidity and narrow participation continue to constrain market depth. The insurance sector remained profitable, although rising operational costs, climate change risks, and high market concentrations are among leading factors that pose emerging challenges. Mr. Speaker, the accommodative monetary policy stance pursued in 2024, which reduced borrowing and debt service costs, continued to stimulate the private sector credit, providing the necessary catalyst for growth and employment creation in the economy. Between April and October 2025, year-on-year average growth in private sector credit was 8.1%, slightly lower than 8.7% recorded over the same period in 2024. in 2025, growth was concentrated in the business sector, with business credit rising by 14.2% from 12.6% in 2024, supported by robust performance in agriculture, manufacturing, and distribution industries. Conversely, household credit growth slowed to an average of 2.3%, down from 6% in the same period 2024-2025 financial year, reflecting persistently tight consumer finances despite lower borrowing costs. The amount of money in circulation within the economy expanded by an average of 5.9% between April and October 2025, compared to 9.9% in the same period in 2024. Growth was driven by increases in both private sector credit and net foreign assets. Notably, interest-earning deposits grew by 7.8%, indicating a higher tendency amongst depositors to save, while transaction deposits rose at a slower pace of 3%. Mr. Speaker, in the short to medium term, growth in private sector credit and money supply is expected to remain positive, supported by the ongoing recovery in economic activity. Household credit is also expected to improve, aided by subdued inflation, declining interest rates, and stronger household finances, particularly following the recent civil service salary review. Mr. Speaker, support measures for MSMEs include financing schemes such as the Informal Traders Revolving Fund, the MSME Revolving Fund, the Small Scale Enterprise Loan Guarantee Scheme, and the Export Credit Guarantee Scheme. These initiatives provide entrepreneurs with the capital necessary to establish, expand, and sustain their businesses. To date, 56 million has been distributed under the SME Revolving Fund, resulting in the creation of 3,096 jobs. Additionally, the Small Scale Enterprise Loan Guarantee Scheme has supported 146 businesses to the value of 35 million emalangeni, further supporting enterprise growth and employment creation. The latest studies show that there are 70,000 MSMEs in the kingdom, which employs over 90,000 Eswatini and contributes significantly to Eswatini's GDP. 74% of these MSMEs are located in the rural areas and are mainly concentrated in the retail sector. The agriculture sector is the most dominant in terms of employment. Government provides support for 123 businesses through the incubation program, which helps SMEs to develop their business acumen and grow their businesses. Through MSME capacity development and sector support program, which targets MSMEs that are not under the incubation program, government capacitated over 1,500 entrepreneurs from different Nkundla on entrepreneurship, business planning, and financial literacy. Mr. Speaker, the international finance architecture is changing swiftly, with a rapid decline in aid, making the shift towards trade inevitable. Eswatini's response needs to be equally swift and targeted in order to find a sustainable solution to the financing gap for small businesses, who represent the backbone of our economy. Under the leadership of His Majesty the King, we are championing the establishment of a continental blended finance mechanism called Africa Strategic Investment Alliance, AFCIA, founded on the Africa Union Summit decision, which will enable us to provide collateral-free loans to MSMEs, women and youth, as well as build digital and financial literacy nationwide. Working under the collective umbrella with other African Union member states, DFIs and private sector companies, will be able to attract additional funding for small businesses by leveraging technology. We have provided 10 million emalangeni in this budget to establish this entity. Government will launch an interministerial committee to oversee the country program and the establishment of a regional head office for Southern Africa for the Africa Strategic Investment Alliance, AFCIA, in the Kingdom of Eswatini. Joining AFCIA positions the Kingdom of Eswatini to boost its trade under the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, attract investment flows from South Africa, increase digital and financial inclusion for marginalized groups, including people with disabilities, and increase youth unemployment through the country program that will be initiated during the second quarter of 2026. Mr. Speaker, factory shells remain a cornerstone of government's industrial development strategy. They provide ready-to-use infrastructure that enables investors to commence operations without delay, thereby reducing the time and costs associated with establishing businesses. This approach removes a major barrier to investment, particularly in the manufacturing sector, and sends a strong signal of the government's commitment to supporting industrial growth. By offering fully serviced industrial facilities, Eswatini is positioned as a more competitive and investor-friendly destination in a region where countries are actively competing for investments. The government has completed and handed over the Kamula and Nzevane factory shells to investors. These facilities are expected to create a combined total of 1,500 jobs. In addition, construction of the Ngwenya, Pigs Peak and Sikwe factory shells commenced and is currently providing employment for over 200 people during construction phase, and 2,223 once operational. These factories are expected to be completed in the 2026-27 financial year. Furthermore, the Johnson's Workwear factory in Hlangano has been completed and is expected to become operational this year with anticipated employment of over 2,000 people. Government has transferred the control of all government-owned factory shells to the Eswatini Investment Promotion Authority, who now collects all the rentals for these factory shells. This funding exceeds 100 million emalangeni per annum, and after a renovation program will be used to build new factory shells. In addition, government has provided 87 million emalangeni for the construction of factory shells in this budget. Mr. Speaker, this year has presented us with an extraordinary challenge. The United States government has announced a significant shift in its global health financing priorities, which has created a fiscal shock for our health system. PEPFAR funding, which has been a cornerstone of our HIV/AIDS response, is under review. We have engaged directly with the US government representatives, and I'm pleased to report that an MOU has been signed to ensure continuity of HIV support. Mr. Speaker, we continue to shift our health system from late-stage treatment to prevention and early detection. We have deployed 4 mobile cancer screening units across the country, bringing screening directly to communities. Early detection saves lives. Early detection is also more cost-effective than late-stage detection. To complement the health financing reform, government is poised to operationalize the transformation of the central medical stores into a semi-autonomous, accountable and efficient Eswatini Medical Supply Agency. This reform will strengthen governance arrangements, modernize procurement and logistics systems, reduce chronic stockouts, and ensure the availability of essential medicines and medical supplies across all levels of care. In this budget, 40 million emalangeni has been provided under the recurrent budget to cater for the cost of this crucial exercise. Mr. Speaker, our goal is that no Liswati should travel more than 8 kilometers to a health facility. Every clinic we build, every community health worker we deploy, every medicine we stock, all of which is directed to a singular aim, a healthy nation that does not have to choose between distance and care. Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to report that the Palala Fund, which provides emergency financial assistance for patients requiring treatment beyond its borders, has had its outstanding debt reduced to 30 million emalangeni. This represents significant progress in managing one of our most sensitive health financing obligations. Mr. Speaker, in our HIV response, Eswatini has again led the continent. We are among the first countries globally to introduce lenacapavir as part of our national HIV treatment protocol. Lenacapavir is a long-acting injectable. A patient receives 2 injections a year rather than daily pills. This transforms adherence and dramatically improves health outcomes. The Opium and Habit-Forming Drug Amendment Bill 2025 was gazetted towards the end of the last Parliament session and is ready for tabling and onward processing through Parliament. If this is passed, it should move many people from informal to formal employment and create thousands of new jobs. Mr. Speaker, for the 2026-2027 financial year, the Ministry of Health has been allocated 3.24 billion emalangeni. This is our commitment to a health system that prevents, heals, and loves its people back to wholeness. Mr. Speaker, the threat of retrenchment is one of the most anxiety-causing realities facing eMaswati households. This year, we have developed the Unemployment Benefit Insurance Fund, a structured safety net that will, for the first time, provide funding for workers who lose their employment through no fault of their own. This is a social compact. It says, we see you in your moments of vulnerability and will not leave you there. Mr. Speaker, government, through the Measurement and Testing Unit, successfully held the Eswatini National Career Expo in July 2025. It engaged 17,984 participants across 5 locations, targeting in-school youth, out-of-school youth, and persons with disabilities. The event provided crucial career guidance and networking opportunities. Mr. Speaker, we've also launched the National Human Resource Development Policy from 2024 to 2030. This policy coordinates our skills development, training, and employment strategy across all ministries. For the first time, Eswatini has a coherent, integrated national plan for developing its most important resource, its people. Mr. Speaker, for the 2026-2027 financial year, the Ministry of Labour and Social Security has been allocated 858.3 million emalangeni. Mr. Speaker, education is where agape love has its longest investment. The decision we make today in our classrooms will determine the kind of nation we are in 2040. This year, we have taken bold steps to transform what happens in these classrooms through the rollout of competency-based education, a curriculum reform that moves from rote memorization to applied understanding. Mr. Speaker, we are also introducing ASA levels as a pathway for Eswatini students to gain internationally recognized qualifications without leaving the country. This opens university doors across the world for every Leswati student with the talent and the determination to walk through them. Mr. Speaker, 340 grade 0 classrooms have already received the competency-based education curriculum, and we have targeted 243 schools for full CBE material distribution. In parallel, we have launched the Teach at the Right Level pilot in 30 primary schools, an evidence-based approach that meets children at their actual learning level rather than their grade level. Mr. Speaker, our Staff and Student Education Management Information System, SEMIS, built on the DHIS2 platform, is now considered an Africa-wide benchmark for education data management. Real-time data on teachers, students, and school performance allows us to direct resources where they are needed, not where they assume to be needed. Mr. Speaker, this year, we have converted 130 primary school teachers and 113 high school teachers from temporary to permanent employment. A teacher who has security in their own life is better placed to build security in the lives of their students. In the 2026-2027 financial year, government has received an additional grant of 85.36 million emalangeni from the Japan International Cooperation Agency, referred to as JICA, for the construction of 4 secondary schools in support of expansion of secondary school education infrastructure at Ngwenyameni, New Tulwane, Mapungwane, and Lavomisa. This represents 1 new secondary school per region and is expected to be completed in 1 year. Mr. Speaker, in the 2026-2027 financial year, the Ministry of Education is allocated 5.06 billion emalangeni in the recurrent budget, 408.7 million in the capital budget. In addition, 194.5 million has been allocated for OVC funds and 702.3 million emalangeni for scholarships. This total of 6.4 billion emalangeni, representing 16.7% of the total budget, is spent on educating eMaswati. This is by far the highest budget allocation, reflecting government's intentionality in investing in our youth for future productivity in our economy. Mr. Speaker, government continues to champion the rights and well-being of vulnerable populations through progressive reforms and expanded social protection coverage. During the last year, the DPM's office intensified the transition from institutional care to family-based care, prioritizing kinship care, foster care, and adoption. Through partnerships with faith-based and non-government organizations like Bulembu Ministries and SOS Children's Village, children were successfully reunited with their extended families, strengthening family systems and reducing reliance on institutional care. To respond to emerging social challenges affecting the country, government is on course to establish more decentralized service centers across the country. As we continue to build a nation where every child is protected, empowered, and given the opportunity to thrive, government remains at the forefront of safeguarding children's rights and well-being across the kingdom. In the 2026-27 financial year, government, through the DPM's office, will spearhead the establishment of community justice committees nationwide. These committees will promote restorative justice approaches for children at risk of being in conflict with the law, reinforcing rehabilitation over punishment. It will also review and implement the National Children's Policy and Early Childhood Care and Development Framework, ensuring early investments in children's development, protection, and inclusion, with particular attention to children with disabilities. Mr. Speaker, significant progress has been made in implementing the Persons with Disabilities Act of 2018, including the development of the Persons with Disabilities Registration Regulations of 2025. The Mzimpofu Hostel has been upgraded to provide appropriate residential care for persons with disabilities. Mr. Speaker, the Disaster Risk Management Act of 2025 has been enacted. This gives Eswatini a legal and operational framework for responding to disasters with speed, coordination, and accountability. When disaster strikes, the speed of government's response is a measure of how much it loves its people. Mr. Speaker, in the 2025-26 financial year, food assistance programs reached 263,090 eMaswati in 58,201 households across all 59 Tinkundla. Additionally, 256 houses have been constructed for vulnerable households who previously had no safe shelter. Mr. Speaker, for the 26-27 financial year, we are committing to building houses for 60 additional vulnerable households and livelihood support for 200 families to provide vocational and agriculture training. These are not statistics, these are specific families with specific names in specific communities awaiting for government's assistance. Mr. Speaker, the government has allocated 1.2 billion eMalangeni to the Deputy Prime Minister's office in order to continue with the essential services of taking care of the most vulnerable. Mr. Speaker, agriculture remains the industry that could have the biggest positive impact on our economy in the short term. The country has been negatively impacted by the outbreak of foot and mouth disease, which is one of the highly guarded transboundary animal diseases. This has resulted in the suspension of exports and it's disrupted internal markets on food commodities of animal origin. There is a need to upscale investment in the prevention and control of animal diseases. This will be attained through the rehabilitation of cordon fences to prevent transboundary livestock movement, strengthening the capacity of national labs through the provision of equipment and reagents to facilitate local testing and detection of pathogens is of paramount importance. Efforts were directed towards containing and controlling the disease, including the erection of cordon fences, establishing of checkpoints, and provision of human resources for the operation. A budget of 15 million eMalangeni has been allocated for the rehabilitation of cordon fences, and between the reallocations in the 2025-26 budget, the supplementary budget, and the budget I'm tabling today, 57 million eMalangeni has been provided for vaccines for the rollout of a national vaccination exercise. Mr. Speaker, the Eswatini Agricultural Development Fund has been fully operationalized, providing loans in excess of 22 million to qualifying agribusinesses. The businesses, including startups and expansions of existing operations. The fund was also supported a mechanization project in collaboration with Standard Bank, the Embassy of the United States of America, as well as SwaziTrack. Despite it being a revolving fund that should be self-sustaining, we've added another 10 million eMalangeni towards this fund in this budget to make it more impactful to the farmers. The commercial maize project, Hamba Buya Revolving Fund, has grown into one of Eswatini's most strategic investments for achieving food sovereignty. Under the government's leadership and through Eswatini Water and Agricultural Development, referred to as EWADE, disciplined execution over 4 seasons, the program has supported 402 farmers, cultivated 3,141 hectares, and produced 7,634 metric tons of maize, directly strengthening the nation's ability to feed itself and reduce reliance on volatile regional grain markets. in the 2024-25 farming season, delivered 3,530 metric tons of maize, marking the program's strongest performance to date. For the 2025-26 season, 248 farmers, which is constituted of 192 men, 56 women, and 21 youth, have qualified for support. These farmers were provided with farm inputs worth over 18 million emalangeni. They cultivated 1,860 hectares and are expected to produce an estimated 7,444 metric tons of maize. These achievements reflect the government's vision and EWAD's stellar execution of expanding national maize production, strengthening rural livelihoods, creating jobs, and reducing import dependency. In the 2024-2025 financial year, government launched the Smallholder Agriculture Productivity Enhancement and Marketing Project, referred to as SAPEMP, a 851 million emalangeni investment aimed at transforming Eswatini's rural economy. This 8-year multi-partner program, supported by IFAD, the Green Climate Fund, government and private partners, is poised to revolutionize smallholder agriculture. SAPEMP will uplift 19,600 households, benefiting more than 117,000 citizens, while prioritizing women, youth, and vulnerable groups. It's designed to make farming more productive, resilient, and profitable, to strengthen food security and nutrition, creating at least 7,500 jobs across all 4 regions. Mpangeni Dam, the flagship component of the Mkondongomva Water Augmentation Program, has now surpassed 44% completion mark. This is the largest single investment government has made in a multi-stage agriculture project. And this year, we have allocated 1.6 billion emalangeni in the budget towards the Mpangeni Dam construction, which is an integral part of the Mkondongomva project. At this pace, we remain confident that the dam will be delivered by 2028, underscoring disciplined project control and responsible stewardship of public resources. The holistic MWAB project is designed to create 100,000 jobs after full implementation, when both dams have been fully constructed. Mr. Speaker, to date, over 1,800 jobs have been created across the various components, from Mpangeni Dam construction under the Sakalive joint venture to household resettlement works, bush clearing and soil preparation, farming activities and other livelihood restoration efforts. Work with key ministries, in this case being Education and Labour, and supported by the Africa Development Bank, EWADE through NWAB program is championing skills transfer by supporting an apprentice initiative that places 50 young diploma holders with Sakalive joint venture for hands-on training at the dam site. Eswatini Youth Employment Opportunities Project, referred to as EYOP, funded by the World Bank Group to the value of 486 million emalangeni, to be implemented over a period of 5 years, is designed to create jobs and entrepreneurial pathways for youth aged 18 to 35. The project places strong emphasis on practical training, agro-business incubation, and strategic partnerships with the private sector to catalyze meaningful, sustainable employment. 30,000 young beneficiaries will be empowered to participate in 3 high-impact streams: on-farm ventures such as crop and livestock production, off-farm enterprises including post-harvest and value addition facilities, and employable skills development through on-the-job training. The Lower Usutu Smallholder Irrigation Project, referred to as LUCIP Phase 2, is now in its completion and closing stage. 20 farming companies have been established and are fully operational. 7 contractors are currently on ground undertaking on-farm development activities, including bush clearing, land preparation, irrigation system installation, and planting, finalizing on-farm development for 10 schemes under the Ngomatulu and Mieni chiefdoms. All schemes are projected to be fully operational by the end of March 2026 and will then be providing 1,687 permanent jobs. Mr. Speaker, under LUCIP Phase 2, 6 portable water supply schemes have been established, all now fully operational, providing improved water services to over 15,000 people, marking an increase of 2,969 beneficiaries, largely attributed to the Sinya Mantulwa portable water scheme. Sinya Mantulwa. And the NWAB. Oh no, I just break it up to spell it right. And the NWAB interim water schemes.
Order, Bahlonishwa. Minister, you are doing well. Please continue.
The Sinya Mantulwa was the word he's looking for there. To break it up to pronounce it properly, Honourable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, government through NMC has successfully procured maize from local farmers at a competitive price of 6,000 emalangeni for ordinary farmers and 6,300 emalangeni per tonne for contracted farmers, representing an increase of 3.4% when compared to the previous financial year. 50 hectares of Swazi Nation land has been availed to government for purposes of constructing the National Grain Reserves Facility. For the 2026-27 financial year, government allocated 2.2 billion emalangeni to the Ministry of Agriculture. Mr. Speaker, the government of Eswatini is making positive strides towards the provision of safe and clean water supply to all eMaswati, irrespective of location. The achievement of water supply, sanitation and hygiene master plan during 2025 is indeed a significant milestone for the sector. The master plan demonstrates water supply gaps and the needed budget for water supply infrastructure development throughout the kingdom to ensure that all eMaswati receive affordable, clean and safe water at all times. Testimonial to this is the to this assertion is the rollout of mega projects such as the Nhlangano Spambanweni, Lomahasha Namasha, and the Manzini Regional Integrated Water Supply and Sanitation Project. All of these mega water schemes will be completed in 2026. The government, through the Ministry of Natural Resources and World Vision collaboration, completed 7 macro water supply schemes. These are the Bethel Extension, Lombatsela, Mbogwe, Nsenga, Gebeni, Matlangacha, and Tutugani, while construction continues at the Moti, Lutlangotini, Phase 2, and Kupuga schemes. These partnerships also restored functionality to over 72 micro water supply systems across the country, extending clean water access to rural communities and grid infrastructure, that grid infrastructure could not reach. Mr. Speaker, the Geological Survey Department has conducted an extensive mineral survey in the recent past. Potential mineral targets were generated. The country will now make follow-up surveys on the various targets to fully unlock the value of the natural resources, and a budget of 6.13 million emalangeni has been provided for this exercise. The Minerals Subcommittee had some positive developments in the number of mineral rights that were granted under the auspices of Ngwenyama in Trust for eMaswati. There were 3 coal mining licenses that were granted, and this included a mining license for our power utility, Eswatini Electricity Company, to embark on a feasibility to develop a thermal power plant that will feed into the national electricity grid. There was also a granting of 2 gold processing licenses for exploration programs in the northwest part of the country. The iron ore project at the defunct Ngwenya iron ore mine site got an extension of a prospecting license to determine the viability of extracting in situ resources. Mr. Speaker, the power sector, through the power procurement program, the government has made remarkable progress towards the construction of 75 megawatt solar PV power plants that have been developed by the private sector, as witnessed during the launch of the 20 megawatt solar PV plant, which will be constructed at Nduma. This will soon be followed by the launch of a 15 megawatt Nzevane solar PV plant. To further diversify the local electricity generation mix, a power purchase and grid connection agreement has been signed with the Bombo Sugar Limited for the development of a 40 megawatt biomass plant that will significantly increase local power generation. These projects, in addition to the 13.6 megawatt Lower Makuduza hydro plant, which is already under construction. The country is finalizing its power purchase agreements with Eskom and the National Transmission Company of South Africa for a period of 10 years. This will give our country enough time to increase its local power generation capacity to the extent of exporting excess power to the region. To ensure reliable power supply and the support of connection of households in the Eswatini region, EEC has completed the construction of 4 substations in Hluti, Lavomisa, Matanjeni, and Nhlangano, as well as a 132 kV transmission line from Nhlangano to Lavomisa. The utility further completed the construction of another 132 kV line from Tualeni to Stonehenge that provides reliable supply for the capital city. Mr. Speaker, through the Rural Electrification Programme, the government continued to improve access to electricity. In the 2025-26 financial year, 4,227 households were electrified and 1,500 ready boards installed for previously unelectrified households. Furthermore, in line with the need to come up with innovative solutions for the electrification of the last mile customers, the government has recently embarked on a pilot project for solar home systems that targets 40 households at Kelekele, that were previously impossible to electrify through grid connection. In ensuring energy access through grid extension and strengthening, the government, through the assistance of the World Bank Group, will undertake the Ascent project, which intends to ensure that Eswatini achieves 100% access to electricity by 2030. The project will assist in the electrification of households in both rural and urban areas throughout the country. Mr. Speaker, in the petroleum sector, the government has secured funding from the Exim Bank on the Republic of China and Taiwan for the construction of the Strategic Oil Reserve Facility. The construction company has begun preliminary works, Ministry of Natural Resources, Energy and Mining. Mr. Speaker, the much anticipated opening and operationalization of the International Conference Centre, what referred to as the ICC, in April 2026 is set to be transformational for the tourism industry in Eswatini. An additional 100 million has been set aside in this budget, specifically to ensure that all provisions are made available to enable the ICC to deliver professional services to local and international visitors wishing to use the world-class facility. The ICC is expected to stimulate tourism, hospitality, aviation, and related service industries, generating thousands of jobs and boosting foreign exchange earnings. Mr. Speaker, government will continue to strengthen environmental governance, mobilize climate and environmental finance, and empower communities to respond to emerging environmental risks. By supporting the Eswatini Environmental Authority through this budget, we're protecting the national capital that underpins agriculture, tourism, energy security, and long-term fiscal stability. This budget, therefore, reflects responsible leadership and a clear commitment to securing a prosperous, resilient, and sustainable future for the Kingdom of Eswatini. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Tourism has been allocated 194.4 million emalangeni in the 2026-2027 financial year. Mr. Speaker, in pursuit of its mandate of transforming the digital economy agenda, government will continue to focus on information and communication technologies implementation as a priority and a key enabler to attain the vision of a knowledge-based economy and a digitally inclusive society. During the 2025-26 financial year, government recorded significant achievements across regulatory enforcement, spectrum management, cybersecurity, data protection, infrastructure support, broadcasting expansion, postal and courier reform, and consumer protection, as well as service sector strengthening. The vision towards efficient service delivery by leveraging digital transformation has yielded notable achievements in e-government. These include the development of Government in Your Hand app that was launched in May 2025, which brings services closer to eMaswati. The current downloads, which are above 10,000, are increasing daily, which shows user confidence, and government will be increasing the number of services that can be accessed through this app. Preparatory work to merge Eswatini Broadcasting Information Services, EBIS, and Eswatini Television Authority, ESTVA, to form the Eswatini Broadcasting Corporation, as directed by the Broadcasting Act of 2023, has begun. This work will include consultations with both stakeholders on change of staff management and the legal transition process. Currently, a report to be used to inform the process has been completed. A number of eMaswati are taking advantage of the free lessons offered through the Coders Eswatini initiative. To date, 5,000 citizens have enrolled in courses such as programming, artificial intelligence, data science, and Android development. This initiative, in partnership with the United Arab Emirates, aims to bridge the digital divide and boost innovation for economic development. To ensure efficient delivery of government services to Eswatini, a budget of 35 million has been allocated to upgrade the mainframe computer system in order to deal with the frequent downtimes we're currently experiencing. This budget provides 413.9 million emalangeni to the Ministry of ICT for the rollout of these targeted programs. Mr. Speaker, the 2026-2027 financial year marks the beginning of a crucial national exercise, the Eswatini Population and Housing Census, which will provide reliable and timely socio-economic data showing how the country's population is structured for evidence-based planning and policy decision-making. The last census was conducted in 2017, and it was the first digital census in the country. The next one is going to be held in 2027. The Central Statistics Office has begun data collection for the first phase of the census, which is the mapping and listing of all households in the country. A budget allocation of 130.5 million emalangeni has been set aside in this year's budget for this exercise. The nation is invited to fully participate in this national assignment to ensure it succeeds and that no one is left behind, especially on census night, to confirm that the ultimate population figures produced present a realistic estimate of how many people the country has in 2027. Mr. Speaker, the government recognizes the damage caused by the impact of extreme climate change on our road network, particularly after the recent rains, and especially in rural and district roads. The asphalt road network has continued to expand and currently amounts for an estimated 51% of gazetted roads. In the medium term, the government, working with development partners, is expected to increase the paved road network to close to 60%. The government is cognizant of the road maintenance challenges. It is necessary that damaged roads are fixed to a level where climate change does not destroy them on an annual basis. This year, government will spend 164 million emalangeni for the rehabilitation and maintenance of feeder roads. It will spend 70 million emalangeni for the maintenance and upgrade of roads, crossings and bridges. An additional 364 million emalangeni has been set aside for the construction of main and district double-sealed tarred roads. To enhance planning and execution of road maintenance, the government will prioritize the operationalization of the Roads Authority in 2026. At the end of the year, 450 million emalangeni will be available in the Roads Authority Fund for the maintenance and upgrades of roads throughout the country. This is in addition of the 880 million for the Spofanani and Sogo, the MR14, MR21 roads. This brings the total amount available for road infrastructure in 2026-2027 financial year to nearly 2 billion emalangeni. Mr. Speaker, government also remains committed to improving road safety and will continue to align interventions with the Africa Road Safety Charter and the National Road Safety Strategy, which aims to reduce road accidents and fatalities by 50% by 2030. Mr. Speaker, the state of most government buildings are deplorable. This must be improved to ensure that buildings that are used to access public services as well as used as residences are in a decent state. We're at the final stages of negotiations with DBSA for a 2.4 billion South African Rand loan for the Housing Board, of which 368 million will be drawn down in this year's budget to build more institutional houses and to renovate government houses and building infrastructure. This loan request is yet to come to Parliament for approval in this financial year. Mr. Speaker, the government has been instrumental in strengthening Eswatini's aviation sector through foundational regulatory and operational milestones. Eswatini achieved an impressive 80.48% in the ICAO aviation security audit. A provision of 80 million emalangeni has been allocated for the audit in the 26-27 financial year. The recognition agreement by the African Airlines Association is a reflection that the Eswatini airline has made a mark in the sub-region aviation landscape, with Eswatini securing a new route to Lusaka, Zambia for 2 trips per week. The airline securing more routes is highly dependent on Eswatini remaining certified by International Air Transport Association, IATA. This certification will strengthen our ability to secure more bilateral air service agreements, enhancing regional connectivity, driving trade and tourism. Mr. Speaker, the rail sector has demonstrated resilience over the years, and the opportunities for growth increases as regional integration and global trade increases. Rail provides a convenient mode for the movement of bulk commodities, especially fuel and minerals. Eswatini Railways is pursuing the development of a transit 154-kilometer route that traverses to the Republic of South Africa and a gateway to the North-South corridor, where a lot of bulk commodities are hauled to the seaports of Richards Bay, Durban and Maputo. Eswatini Railways continue to facilitate the clearance of the servitude while exploring opportunities for financing the actual construction of the line. Mr. Speaker, in the 2025-26 financial year, the Regional Development Fund, which refers to as RDF, has completed 74 projects, out of which 19 were infrastructure projects and 55 were income-generating projects. These projects benefited 8,875 eMaswati directly and created 317 permanent jobs. In the 26-27 financial year, government will again allocate 177 million to the RDF fund and an additional 30 million towards clearing of the backlog of the outstanding requests from the constituencies. Government will increase its allocation to the Community Development Fund from 188 million in the 25-26 budget to 300 million in the 26-27 budget. This fund continues to have a very positive impact on rural communities through the construction of bridges, roads and other necessary infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, government has been able to reconstruct and rehabilitate 5 Tinkundla centres that have been vandalised, and then Gwempisi in Nkundla is expected to be completed by the end of the financial year. Government's allocated an amount of 547.8 million emalangeni to the Ministry of Tinkundla Administration and Development in order to continue with rural development services and its decentralisation mandate. Mr. Speaker, the police play a crucial role in safeguarding the well-being and security of our communities. During the 2024-25 financial year, the police service worked tirelessly to curb criminal activity. However, despite these sustained efforts, reported crime levels increased by 11%. Road traffic accidents during the last financial year showed a decrease of 18% and 9% on fatal and serious accidents respectively. In line with the government program of action, the police service focuses on community-orientated policing with the aim of reducing crime. This will be made possible through strengthening the trust between law enforcement and the communities and fostering partnerships that address root causes of crime and promote proactive solutions. The Mbutfo Eswatini Defence Force will continue with its peacekeeping role and taking control of our security along the national borders. Mr. Speaker, in the 2026-2027 financial year, His Majesty's Correctional Services plan to review its operational training facility regulations. It will enhance the skills impartation to offenders, optimize production processes at industry and agriculture sectors, and the awarding of certificates to graduating offenders. The installation of a command control center at Matsapa Correctional Center will enhance security and surveillance measures in order to reduce escapees. To adhere to UN standards, government will review the rehabilitation and social reintegration policy. Government will upgrade the Correctional Staff College, including the provision of potable water at Palegane, Big Bend, and Mawela Correctional Centers. In the 2025-26 financial year, 70% of offenders completed socio-social therapy, while 35% of offenders completed pre-release reintegration programs and continued agriculture production enhancement to augment the food supplies budget. Correctional Services intensified vocational skills training and trade testing for offenders. Mr. Speaker, the government remains committed to strengthening the fight against corruption. During the 2025-26 financial year, the Anti-Corruption Commission investigated 285 cases, with 6 cases before the courts involving an estimate value of 660 million emalangeni. In addition, 32 corruption awareness initiatives were conducted across the public and private sectors, reaching approximately 1,500 participants, while regional and international cooperation was enhanced through participation in key anti-corruption forums. Government is intentionally introducing several technological reforms, such as vehicle tracking and fleet management systems, IFMIS, and the establishment of Eswatini Medical Stores Agency, with the end-to-end medicines tracking solution, and by doing so, reducing the opportunities for corruption. The vehicle management system has already observed a 40% reduction in fuel consumption by the government fleet. Mr. Speaker, the embezzlement of public funds thrives in the shadows of weak coordination of combating such crimes. Building on the mandate from Sibaya, government is strengthening the synergies between the Office of the Auditor General, the Anti-Corruption Commission, and law enforcement. Government supports the supreme audit institution that monitors public funds without fear and favor, providing a stable environment where both the public sector and the private investors can flourish under predictable, transparent, and world-class regulatory framework. Mr. Speaker, government, through the Eswatini Financial Intelligence Center, continues to play a critical role in safeguarding the country's financial system against money laundering and terrorism financing, which pose serious risks to financial stability and economic development. In the 2025-26 financial year, EFIC implemented a compliance program aimed at monitoring the effective application of anti-money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism measures by reporting entities. Key achievements included targeted AML CFT training for high-risk sectors and the development of a comprehensive institutional risk assessment methodology. The government is also preparing for its next Universal Periodic Review under the United Nations Human Rights Council, which is scheduled to take place in October-November 2026 session. This review presents an opportunity for Eswatini to demonstrate progress made since the last session. This is our opportunity to reaffirm our commitment to continuous improvement in human rights governance. Mr. Speaker, government's clear commitment and efforts to advancing sustainable goal number 16, particularly in relation to the access to justice for all, goes beyond the mere establishment of a legal aid office. Government has demonstrated a deliberate and comprehensive approach to building a justice system that is accessible, fair, and responsive to the needs of all citizens by taking decisive steps in strengthening the legal and institutional framework for the provision of legal aid. The enactment of the Legal Aid Act and the Legal Practitioners Act is a significant milestone. These pieces of legislation provide a conducive and modern legislative framework.
Finance, Nice Minister Gugu Pazamisa. The time is 11:30. So bengicela Your Excellency kuze Minister atoqhubeka acecele lo msebenzi wakhe. We invoke Standing Order 263 to suspend Standing Order 30 induna ito cecela inkulumo yayo ye-budget. Your Excellency, please.
Siyabonga, Mr. Speaker. Ngiyashukumisa, Mr. Speaker, to invoke Standing Order number 263 to suspend number 30. Thank you.
Thanks, Your Excellency. Bahlonishwa sekushukunyisiwe kule ndlu ukuthi indlu lehloniphekile invoke Standing Order 263 to suspend Standing Order 30 kuze kuthi induna ito khona kuchubeka icecele umsebenzi lechubeka nawo. Labavumelana lokho abathi ayi, labangavumi bathi nay. The ayes have it and the ayes have it. Order, bahlonishwa, order. Order, bahlonishwa, to allow the Minister for Finance to continue. Minister, please continue.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and thank you, Honourable Members, for allowing me to continue. We're almost there, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, these pieces of legislation provide a conducive and modern legislative framework that will enhance the delivery of legal aid services and ultimately promote public confidence in the justice system. Mr. Speaker, in the 2025-26 financial year, government revenues and grants were projected to amount to 29.64 billion, corresponding to 31.5% of GDP. The projected revenue collection displayed a decrease against the initial budget of 29.73 billion. Mr. Speaker, the total government expenditure for 25-26 financial year was budgeted at 32.6 billion. The estimated budget outturn at the end of the year stands at 35.6 billion, which is 37.8% of GDP. This is approximately 3.2% higher than the outturn of 2024-2025 financial year. During the 25-26 financial year, government recorded notable progress in advancing public sector reforms and strengthening human resource management across government. Key achievements included the successful finalization and implementation of the Phase 2 salary adjustments for the 3 security forces, benefiting the Mbutfo Eswatini Defence Force, the Royal Eswatini Police Service, and His Majesty's Correctional Service at a cost of 230 million emalangeni. Following the government approval, the Joint Negotiations Forum successfully negotiated and signed a collective agreement operationalizing the implementation of recommended scenario 3 of the salary review report, with effect from October 2025 pay dates, backdated to April 2025. Mr. Speaker, the deficit for the 2025-26 financial year is expected to deteriorate to 6.4% of GDP from a budget of 3.1% of GDP. While we've been able to fund part of this through local borrowing, a large part has been financed through external borrowing. Mr. Speaker, total debt stock stood at 34.35 billion emalangeni at the end of November 2024, which is equivalent to 39.6% of GDP. Of the stock, external debt stood at 15.55 billion, which is equivalent to 17.9% of GDP, whilst domestic debt stood at 18.79 billion, which is equivalent to 21.7% of GDP. During this financial year, government through Parliament approved and signed loan agreements, also securing some grants. The loan agreements include the OPEC Fund for International Development, for financing the Mkondungwavuma Water Augmentation Project, amounting to $20 million, and also the International Fund for Agriculture Development, IFAD, for financing the Smallholder Agriculture Production Enhancement Project, referred to as SWAPEMP, amounting to $13.57 million. Mr. Speaker, government has contracted a loan for the Strategic Oil Reserve for Eswatini National Petroleum Company, and we are planning to raise a loan for institutional housing for Eswatini National Housing Board. Even though these have been contracted by government, ultimately they'll be paid fully by these entities using their own income streams and balance sheets. And for this reason, they'll be treated as contingent liabilities. These loans are projected to increase government loan book in the 26-27 financial year to 47% debt to GDP. However, without these loans, government debt to GDP will be maintained at the same level of 2025-26 financial year, at 43% of GDP, keeping us on a sustainable path. Mr. Speaker, the number of state-owned entities increased from 49 to 50, following the establishment of Eswatini Road Agency under the Ministry of Public Works and Transport, in response to widespread public concern over the poor state of roads infrastructure. While the government recognizes the importance of this intervention, it must be clear that the creation of new entities will not be accompanied by unchecked spending. Performance across several commercial entities has declined, resulting in reduced dividends to government and placing additional strain on the fiscus, a situation that cannot be sustained. Government's currently undertaking a comprehensive salary review of parastatals alongside a stringent performance criteria exercise, identifying key performance indicators for each entity. Mr. Speaker, the government continues to implement public finance management reforms, and government's initiated the development of the implementation of the Integrated Financial Management Information System. Through IFMIS, government's introducing a program-based budgeting, paying much more attention to the National Development Plan, strategy and plan. This reform strengthens the planning and of programs and activities for ministries and departments. The implementation of IFMIS has offered a timely opportunity to intentionally align planning and budgeting through the introduction of program-based planning and budgeting. program-based planning and budgeting allows us not to only budget more strategically, but also to improve transparency and accountability by linking public spending directly to clearly defined programs and measurable outcomes. The emphasis on the government planning process through clearly identifying the National Development Plan and the Programme of Action related activities has given the government strategic direction during the budgeting process. At this stage, Honourable Speaker, I want to plead with the nation to say during April of this year is when this will be implemented. Like any big system and it's a massive undertaking, and there might be glitches, there might be constraints, there might be problems as we go. Please bear with us, work with us to get through that process so that we can have this really game changer installed in our country. Mr. Speaker, government remains firmly committed to strengthening the tax system as a cornerstone of domestic resource mobilization and sustainable national development. Our objective is to build a fair, efficient, and growth-supporting tax system that broadens the tax base, enhances compliance, and reduces over-reliance on volatile external resources. In 2024-2025 financial year, tax collections increased by 1.588 billion emalangeni, representing a growth of 12.2%. The strong performance reflects the effectiveness of tax administration reforms implemented by the Eswatini Revenue Services through a service-based and compliance-driven approach. Government appreciates all eMaswati who honoured their tax obligations and thereby contributed directly to funding public services and development programs. Government continues to encourage those who are not fully compliant to do so, as tax compliance is both a civic responsibility and a foundation for inclusive development. Mr. Speaker, the positive momentum is expected to continue, with tax collections projected to grow 13.2% in the 2025-2026 financial year. However, despite these gains, significant tax compliance gaps remain, estimated at approximately 4 billion emalangeni annually. These gaps, particularly in the VAT within the wholesale and retail sector, represents lost revenues that could otherwise support national priorities. Government's therefore prioritising improved compliance and enforcement and a more equitable and sustainable alternative to increasing tax rates and placing additional pressure on compliant taxpayers. Mr. Speaker, tax and customs reforms have also been advanced through improved trade facilitation. Under the National Trade Facilitation Roadmap, significant progress has been achieved, including the expansion of the Authorised Economic Operator Programme, which rewards high levels of tax and customs compliance. Processing times have been markedly improved, with declaration processing now averaging under 28 minutes. In addition, the government implemented target VAT policy measures to promote equity and reduce the cost of living, including increases in the VAT exemption threshold from 1,000 to 10,000 at the borders of entry into Eswatini, expanding the list of VAT-exempt products, and zero rating essential items such as sanitary pads, reusable nappies, and selected medical supplies. These measures reduce the tax burden on households while encouraging accurate declarations and compliance. Turning to tax performance in 2025-26 financial year, government budgeted total revenue and grants of 29.725 billion, with a projected outturn at 29.638 billion. A marginal shortfall of 87 million reflects weaker performance in non-tax revenue, therefore reinforcing the importance of strengthened tax collection as the most reliable source of funding. Over the medium term, total revenue and grants are projected to rise, supported primarily by improvements in domestic tax mobilization, enhanced compliance, digital tax administration reforms, and the implementation of the fiscalization plan. Mr. Speaker, corporate tax collections are projected to record a slight shortfall in the 25-26 financial year due to subdued profitability across key sectors. However, over the medium term, corporate tax collections are expected to recover steadily, driven by gradual economic recovery, improved tax administration, and strengthened digital compliance systems. Similarly, personal income tax collections, mainly PAYE, performed slightly above target in the 2025-26 financial year, reflecting improved compliance and moderate wage growth. These collections are projected to grow steadily over the medium term, supported by economic recovery, public service salary review, and continued enforcement of compliance measures. Government has completed key legislative reforms aimed at strengthening the tax system and widening the tax base. These include the Finance Amendment Act of 2025, the Alcohol and Tobacco Levy Amendment Act 2025, the Income Tax Amendment Act 2023. The revision of alcohol and tobacco levies, alongside measures such as the planned collection of fuel tax at border points, forms part of government's broader fiscalization plan to improve tax compliance and efficiency. Mr. Speaker, in the 2026-27 financial year, government does not intend to increase taxes other than the excise duties that were announced by South Africa, which forms part of the SACU revenue pool. In order to align with South Africa, the proposed increase of excise duties of 3.39% will be applied to all alcohol and tobacco products immediately. Mr. Speaker, looking ahead to the 26-27 financial year and beyond, Eswatini Revenue Services will continue to modernize tax and customs systems, automate processes, and enhance service quality. The focus will remain on digitization, taxpayer education, stakeholder engagement, and enforcement of compliance, ensuring the tax system is fair, efficient, and capable of generating sustainable domestic revenue to support Eswatini's development agenda. Mr. Speaker, I'll now present the budget estimates for the 2026-27 financial year. The government revenue, excluding grants, for 26-27 financial year is projected to reach 31.42 billion emalangeni, which is 30.4% of GDP, an increase of 7.8% on the 25-26 financial year. SACU receipts increase from 10.4 billion to 11.74 billion. However, this budget is only utilizing 11.4 billion, implying that over 300 million is injected into the SACU Stabilization Fund. Non-SACU revenue is expected to increase by approximately 2.36 billion and amounts to 19.05 billion emalangeni, of which 18.09 billion is from taxes and 962 million from non-taxes. Total grants for the 26-27 financial year have decreased to 474 million compared to 585 million in the 2025-26 financial year. Total income taxes are projected to increase from 9.05 billion in 25-26 financial year to 10.06 billion in the 26-27 financial year. This is mainly due to the implementation of the salary review, resulting in an expected increase in personal income taxes of 11.7% to 6.48 billion emalangeni. Mr. Speaker, taxes on goods and services, including SACU receipts, are expected to increase by 17.7%. From 7.58 billion emalangeni in the 25-26 financial year to 8.92 billion in the 26-27 financial year. Value-added tax increased by 24.8% from 5.85 billion in 2025 financial year to 7.3 billion in the 26-27 financial year. Fuel tax decreased from 1.43 billion in 25-26 financial year to 1.42 billion in the 26-27 financial year, reflecting a decrease of only 0.25%. Mr. Speaker, total expenditure for the 26-27 financial year is expected to be 36.92 billion emalangeni. This excludes public debt redemption of 5.33 billion. The appropriated recurrent expenditure is set to be 29.14 billion, an increase of 14.7% compared to the 25-26 financial year, mainly due to the salary review. Total budget allocation to capital programs amounts to 7.78 billion emalangeni, an increase of 8.1% from the previous year's allocation. Mr. Speaker, in the 26-27 financial year, public service wage bill is budgeted to reach 12.44 billion emalangeni compared to 10.48 billion in the 25-26 financial year. In this budget, 635.35 million has been set aside for the 80% back pay and 535.28 million for allowances to complete the 25-26 salary review implementation. Mr. Speaker, government will prioritize continued management of appeals arising from the salary review exercise, whilst the impact of the salary review has increased the wage bill from 32 to 33% of government's total expenditure. It is still manageable compared to the 42% we observed from 2018-2019 financial year. This shows that government's efforts to rationalize the wage bill while taking into consideration the welfare of public servants and service delivery efficiencies. Government's targets will be to reduce the percentage of wage bill to total expenditure over the medium term to below 30%. The budget deficit for the 26-27 financial year is projected at 4.9% of GDP, which equals 5.02 billion emalangeni. Mr. Speaker, our main challenge in Eswatini remains poverty and unemployment, causing many other problems emanating from these. For this reason, our main focus in crafting this budget remains GDP growth. The idea being that growth in GDP exceeds population growth, as emphasized by His Majesty, resulting in GDP per capita growth. This would mean that Eswatini get better jobs and decent salaries, and that the unemployed find employment. When this happens, people come out of poverty. You'll have noticed that a common thread through this budget speech has been job creation. We need to provide Eswatini with the dignity to be able to find work and provide for their families. Mr. Speaker, by virtue of the responsibility entrusted in me as Minister of Finance, I now present this August House the budget estimates for the 2026-27 financial year. Revenue and grants, 31.9 billion emalangeni. Appropriated recurrent expenditure, 29.14 billion emalangeni. Appropriated capital expenditure, 7.78 billion emalangeni. Total expenditure, 36.92 billion emalangeni. Fiscal deficit, 5.02 billion emalangeni. In conclusion, I'd like to express my sincere appreciation and gratitude to the local and international development partners who have faithfully supported us through all these years. This includes partners who have displayed unwavering support to the nation, both financially and technically. Mr. Speaker, in particular, I'd like to acknowledge the support we received from the US government, the Republic of China, Taiwan, the European Union, Japan International Cooperation Agency, the UN Family, Global Fund, the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, Africa Development Bank, International Fund for Agriculture Development, Export-Import Bank of Taiwan, OPEC Fund for International Development, Badia, Kuwait Fund, the Saudi Fund for Development, Clinton Health Access Initiative, Green Climate Fund, World Health Organization, Africa Legal Support, Medicine Sans Frontiers, World Food Programme, Red Cross, World Vision, and civil society. I'd also like to thank all the private companies, businesses, and individuals in Eswatini who have helped us with donations and contributions for cultural events and functions. Honourable Speaker, I really also want to express our appreciation to His Majesty the King for his amazing leadership and dedication to our nation and for leading us with truth and integrity. So I thank the Prime Minister for leading Cabinet. I want to thank my Cabinet Ministers for always being there and being by our side. I'd like to thank the DPM for all the wonderful hard work that she does. Honourable Speaker, thank you for all the hard work you do, to our MPs that have also, especially the Finance Committee, contributing even towards what we do here today. And but really, again, also thank my wife, who stands by my side faithfully. I'd like to also thank...
Order. There is no clapping of hands in Parliament. You are out of order. It's not allowed.
Honourable Speaker, but really most of all, I want to thank my team at the Ministry of Finance. The last 2 days, we've had teams working 24 round the clock. This morning at almost 4 o'clock, this budget book was ready for presentation, and they did the printing of this budget speech document, for instance. They go the extra mile as the team at the Ministry of Finance. I also want to really thank them and appreciate them for their hard work. Lastly, I'd like to quote a scripture from 1 Corinthians 13, verse 7. Love always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. Thank you all.
Asibonge bahlonishwa, sibonge kakhulu, sithathe lithuba sinibonge bahlonishwa. Ngibonga lokuthi nine bahlonishwa beningatshayi letandla. Letandla betshawa ngilaba khona kulandzela kahle in terms of kusebenta kweParliament ukuthi tandla tishaywa eParliament. So kuhlupha ke nangabe kungendeka chair of chairs khona lo mbonile from among the MPs. Kudawufuna usinikele list yalamagama. Sitobabona laba labashaya etandla ukuthi baphule ama standing orders abo, which is not allowed. Otherwise, we want to say thank you very much, Bahlonishwa. Siyanibonga kakhulu kuphumelela kwenu nenduna yembuso siyabongela minister for the budget speech loso uyethulile. Thank you very much for your hard work as well. Of course, sibonga ne collectivity yenu as a cabinet, because it is as a result of working together. Ngiko niqhamuke senithula lokoleni kwethulile. And as always, the hard-working members of Parliament, siyabonga kakhulu Bahlonishwa for being here. Nilalele inkulumo ye budget. Nekusho ke sibonge nema guest ethu kuhlonipha netincingo vele kude nalolukhalile, and thank you for respecting Parliament. Kubalulekile vele ukuthi na useParliament umeke sure ukuthi ucingo alukhali nalo ukuthi ke ulandzele lenqubo yalokusebenta la Parliament. So siyanibonga kakhulu ngebukhona benu. Sikholwa nokuthi you will continue to follow iParliament isende ma debates ngalenza bayale speech nilandzele kahle, and also contribute through your MPs ngokuthi ninibona ukuthi ngabe kwendeke kahle na kwendeke kanjani for the benefit of the country. So thank you very much to all of you. Ngicela ukukhumbuta ke Bahlonishwa ikakhulu kade kini ukuthi inkulumo ye budget seyivele iseculatewe, Bahlonishwa abayithathe bayifunze in getting ready for a debate on Monday. So siyacela Bahlonishwa nende njalo so that nasesikhulumisa le speech senduna ukhanze ukuthi you are well informed Bahlonishwa. Nekuthi ke ngicela ukukhumbuta Bahlonishwa ngema order Bahlonishwa ngiyacela ukukhumbuta nangetimemetelo lengitendile nasingena just ukuthi Bahlonishwa bakhumbule nje ngokuthi ikakhulu kade ke ngicale ngama ministries sikhumbule ma reports siyawacela abasase Parliament ngomsombuluko bo minister your PSs and nabo bonke lenisebenta nabo, make sure siyawathola ngesikhathi. Lo Monday sibe debate budget, but wona akafike lama reports so that then they get tabled the following sitting. Bese ke sekuba ukukhumbuta Bahlonishwa nasiphuma sendlule ngale endlini yetimbunga sitothatha le pack yako konke lokulabe kwethula minister la namuhla, so that over the weekend nidokhona ukufunza Bahlonishwa niti prepare for Monday sitting. Business House Committee siyacela ukukhumbuta Bahlonishwa ukuthi sibonane after the sitting, kepha ke nasingacala siyele ku straight tent nasiphuma nje sonke sibheke ukuthi siyeni khona kuleli tende lelingale la usitawuthi sithole ama snacks khona, and then network with ama invited guests lalapha eTulu. Nani as ama guest you have an opportunity to then network with the members of Parliament. So siyacela ukuthi nendeni kanjalo nasiphuma sawuthi sidle ama snacks sibe sibutana sikhulumisana sibonisana sihlafuna le nkulumo ye budget. Siphinde sikhumbuteke Bahlonishwa ama gift enu labangazange bajike office la speaker ukuthi babojika khona bangakahambi eParliament nabomake labahlonishwa lababomake labangakawathathi imihelwane yabo yamsebenzi wasebuhleni, siyacela nabo bende njalo bajike ngase office. Otherwise, thank you very much to all of you. uNkulunkulu anigcine nonke aniphathe ngemusa. Your Excellency, ngicela ukucela kulesikhathi ukuthi uguqise lendlu lehloniphekile ibuye on Monday nga 2:30 eNzambama.
Ngiyabonga mqondisi ngiyashumisa ukuthi indlu sala iguqa ibuye ngemsombuluko nga2:30 ntambama.
Sibonge Your Excellency guest ethu akeme kancane kunyakata sibonge Your Excellency bahlonishwa sekushukunyisiwe kule ndlu ehloniphekile ukuthi le ndlu isale iguqa kulesikhathi ize ibuye ngomsombuluko nga2:30 entsambama. Labavumelana naloko abathi ayi labangavumi bathi nay. The ayes have it. The ayes have it and the ayes have it. House stand adjourned. Order, bahlonishwa. Order. Guest akeme kunyakata. We all bow. Parliament siyabowa. We stand up and bow. Everybody stand up. Siyasukuma sonke. Bese siyabowa ke bahlonishwa. Thank you.
Sibonga kakhulu mbukele ekhaya ke nanomhla emini sesibuya kuyo ke inkulumo yendvuna elitiko letemafa umhlonishwa Neal Rijkenburg seyivele wathulile ke emaphakelo eminyaka wa 2026-2027 lekuyiphalamende yelishumi nakubili kanti ke emaphakelo akhomba ukuthi indvuna ithule emaphakelo lang 36.9 billion nomalangeni lakhomba ke kukhula ngaloku 4.3 billion nomalangeni njengoba iminyaka elophelile yathula emaphakelo lang 32.6 billion wemalangeni kanti ke indvuna nayithula ke wona lamaphakelo ivetile ukuthi ngemaphakelo la ngaphasi kwesicubulo lesithi agape love lengaphasi kwesicubulo seagape love lokusicubulo lesiphakanyiso imbube emhlaba njengoba bengishito ke naphambilini kanti ke mbukele ekhaya emaphakelo akhomba ukuthi ke indvuna ivetile ukuthi lamaphakelo lawa inhloso yawo lenkulu ngokuthuthukisa sona sive semaswati uvetile ukuthi liningi lesicubulo lesithi agape love sisho kona ukuthi konke lokutabe kwenziwa nguhulumende kutabe kukhomba lithando kiso sive semaswati kanti ke futhi inhloso lenkulu kutabe ngiko ukuthi kulethakale lona lusito olufanele khona ke kiso sive semaswati mbukele ekhaya bakhona ke vele lesebavele bakhona la ngaphandle lokukhomba kona ukuthi sebaphuma ke kuyo emaphakelo kuva ukuthi ngabe indvuna beyikatse ikhuluma ithini kanti ke ngakulolunye ihlangothi ingonyama indvuna ivelile ukuthi umnotho welive ukhombakala ukuthi ungiloyo ke lokhulako itawukhomba ukuthi utamba ngilo lokhulako kulomnyaka losetulu kanzi ke ukhula nje kubonakala ukukhula umnotho lochamuka khona emthelweni lo lapha ngekhathi eveni njengoba kubonakala bosomabhizinisi labancane bangilabo ke labakhaka emathuba emisebenzi ngetinhlelo letihlukahlukene letiphakanyiswe nguye uhulumende lokufaka ekhathi yona indzaba letimali letichamuka khona ku Regional Development Fund kanzi ke indvuna iphindze yaveta ukuthi kulo maphakelo alonyaka kunetindlu lekufanele ukuthi tigcine tiphelile khona ke lapha event lokufaka ekhathi yona ilusip leyona yakhiwa lapha esifundzeni esiseshiselweni kanzi ke futhi lokunye lokuvela ngokuthi kufanele ukuthi kugcine kuphelile ke yona iICC fish njengoba engwenyama mswato wesithathu ishide ukuthi kufanele ukuthi iphele kulomnyaka losetulu indvuna ke yaveta ukuthi kulamaphakelo lawa itawufika ke lapho iphela khona kanzi ke indvuna iphindze yaveta ukuthi kunetinhlelo ke letawuba ngaphasi kwayo i-micro projects lesethembayo ukuthi nakhona lapho kuleto tinhlelo kutawuba ke nayo imisebenzi lemihle letawendika ngiso sive semaswati siyakhumbula ukuthi inhlelo lama-micro projects ngilolunye loluwenta ukuthi emaswati akhone ukucala ke wona emabhizinisi ke naloku naletinye ke tindvu kanzi ke sengivele nginaye ke lochamuka khona ke ngekhathi lesitawukhulumisana naye ukuthi ngabe yena lekakutholileke emaphakelweni nayo indvuna ngilokuthini siyavusela Nkosi njani
siphile njani msakade
siyaphila sina okay sibonga kakhulu kumbe na ungaphawula noma utshela umbukele ekhaya ukuthi ke sikhuluma nabani uphawule ukuthi yini lo ivile kuyo emaphakelo endvuna nekuthi ke njengebantu labaqhamuka ku civil society yini lenicabanga ukuthi lamaphakelo atawukhona kusita ngawe live noma nangabe angekazali site live nibona ngathi befanele ukuthi indvuna iqiniseke
siyabonga kakhulu msakade libito lami ngumsimeto ngwakamalinzisa mabhalane nabusawu lobukele bomabhalane wesilosi mabhalane seoffice kulamalanga kakhulu thina lebe sikutele eParliament bekuto ubuka interest ethi 70 lokuthi sebenta uhulumende ngoba simelela tona sikhathi lesiningi. Umuntu uthi akasho ukuthi ikhona i-disappointment lekhona kule sikulalele lapha ngekhathi kothulwa indvuna. Mhlawumbe sibe disappointed ngokuthi thina isikhathi ukuthi 850 million kuloku ibalance yemali leyasala nasekumasala le review negotiations, but sibone 630 around 600 plus or minus 635 million. Lokusenta ukuthi sibone ukuthi incane akusiyo le mali lebesiyigatsile, and also besibheke ukuthi le mali tokhona ku-attenda kahle letitsingo. But one would want to believe ukuthi encenye babalile bakhanza ukuthi tiyanela letitsingo kulokho, because simfuna phelele lo 85% futhi siyifuna iphelele le mali allowances lesayi shelva out ngesikhathi sikuma negotiations e-public service. Lokunye lesikunothile ke lokuyi disappointment ukuthi kube bede mentioning ye cost of living adjustment kanti siku 2026 la khona siyibheke khona. Phela le mali lekweledwa kwayisiyo ye cost of living, imali eminyaka lophelile, imali lofanele singabe sesayidla sayicetha singena eminyakeni lomusha nje sikhathi sekhola wakhona. Leyo ke vele sitayiphushela liciniso malophelele kusiya khona. Sikubonile kana lokunye la kukhombisa ukuthi lokhomba ukuthi kuyatsinza imisebenzi kubantu labasha ukuthi sitawuvuleka, but siyacela ukuthi seyikibe khona le misebenzi because baningi abantu labasha labasemakhaya impilo yenyukela. Asikamuva kakhulu misa ukuthi khona imali ekushina gas ukuthi mhlawumbe ungete imali lengukuthi kuze gas angakhuphuki noma kuze lonke ukuthi ngakhuphuki. Ngilethi ngithi sine interest kito esisebenzi because they affecta kukhula kwentengo esitolo. Uma ungena nje esitolo uphethe 100 rand uyowuthenga uphuma ne-item inye, awusakhona ukuthenga ibuphi 10 kg, awusakhona ukuthenga rice, so ubuya nelide nje mbamba ebasketini lakho losukuliphethe. Kanti libasketing lwale limcoka lifana let invest necessary letekucala the basic ones. Now uthenga igrocery ekhaya usisebenzi ungumtali ungumuntu lobukele emakhaya noma ubukele abantu lohlala nabo. Ngiloko nje lesingakusho sikubonile kuyasi-disappoint lokho ukuthi angabi khona i-mentioning yakhola nangabe ikhona budget satayibuka mhlawumbe encane ikhona ngisilela singakayivi, but sitayiphushela ukuthi siyithole because tisebenzi tiyayidzinga ngalokuphuthumako. Siyabonga msakade.
Ukhuluma nje ngesebenze ukuthi tiyayidzinga i-cost of living adjustment, ingabe nasibuka lona lihlangothi lwe-private sector yini lekufanele uhulumende ayende kuze ukuthi sive sonke sive ukuthi cha nangemambala impilo iba relieved nangabe kuphakama wona emaholo.
Siyabonga nayo le private sector sinayo interest ki. I think ubonile sekungena i-conversion ye-ENPF lesicabanga ukuthi even if siyakhona nabe sagcina sifikile funa kufike konke kuhamba kahle tisebenzi te-private sector tihola kahle kukhombisa kahle ukukhula kwamahola nakhona kutowenda siciniseko sokuthi sisabukela leta hulumende nete-private sector nato tinakekelekile sesasikusho nako lokuthi akakhuphuke. Siyabonga msakade.
Sibonga kakhulu nobhala sikhathi sakho. Leyo ke ngimabhalane jikelele wenhlangano eNabsawu le babukeke dona tisebenzi kanti ke eceleni kwami sekuvele kunelunga leParliament lenkundla yaseSigwe umhlonishwa David Cruiser Ngcamphalala. Umvuka kaNabsawu ke uyaveta ukuthi lokubathinta kakhulu ngokuthi abakaboni kukhula imali ye-cost of living adjustment, abakaboni futhi kuvela imali leyanele yekufaka ke imali yabo leyasala bathi sebenze embuso nababuya ke khona etafuleni. Angisazele lithuba ngivusele kiwe umhlonishwa Ngcamphalala, siyavusela umhlonishwa namhla emini.
No, asivusele mfana Nkosi, sivusele nasesiveni. Sibonge lo suku lolukhulu lomhlala kangaka. Lapha besilandela ku budget speech khona silandela nokuthi okandaba wayideka wayithini indlu kuyiqondisa ukuthi kufanele kusuke lapha kubhekwephi.
Indvuna siyeva ukuthi indvuna ithule ibudget le ilinganiselwa lebona ikhule ngaloku 3.6% lekhomba kukhula kuleya lomnyaka lophelele. Ingabe niParliament ndawo khona kanjani ukuthi niyibambise indvuna ukuthi imisebenzi lephakanyiswe silo semhlaba ukuthi kufanele ukuthi yendeke ikhona kwendeka. Siyathi ukuthi imali ayisiyo lenele noma indvuna ingathulele nganani but ayigcini yenele.
Angibonge mfana Nkosi, asithi minister wetamile wekunene noma singeke even kwenele konke, kodwa nje mabuka le budget kunengi le wavulele mathuba ngoba likakhulu siyesibuka nemathuba emisebenzi ukuthi i-economy ikhula kanganani even. Sibuke ke kakhulu nje ke ngibuke ukuthi kuyo yonke le budget kunengi lokuthinte yona inkundla yesigwe lokufaka yona impakeni dam lipipe nalokunye lokubala ukuthi tawuchasha iyouth leningi kakhulu esigwe lokufaka kona ama-factory shells lakhiwa khona esigwe lokufaka wona umgwaqo omkhulu uthela wayeka losuka esiphofaneni siphambanweni malomo so lokuthinta yona inkundla yesigwe lokusho ukuthi kule budget lokuningi thina sengibasesigwe sifica isijabulisa ngoba insha yakithi kutawusala lencane kakhulu engawatholi emathuba emisebenzi ngalesikhathi lemisebenzi yonke lenjengalena iqhubeka sibonge nokuthi minister uyithintile indaba yaka health neyaka education kubaluleka kwayo kule budget lamatiko lamabili ukuthi abaluleke kanganani asethembe ukuthi indaba yokukalela indaba emaphilisi nako konke edibhedlela siyethemba wekunene ukuthi kungeke kusaba into lokutawuphinde ekhale ngoba bekulinyefa kusilonda lesikhulu uma ufice emaswati ajike edibhedlela angatholi impilo kanti phela wonke umuntu ulapha nje ubheke yona impilo ukuthi athole i-treatment lengcono kungaba ngiloko mfana wenkosi kwanamuhla
ndivuna ngandaba mhlonishwa siyathe ukuthi lenye indzaba le yatsindwa ngeyo ingwenyama indzaba yenhlala kahle yesive ikakhulukati abantu labadzala nebantfana watsinza indzaba yokuthi bantfana abangabonakali bakhulelwa basetikolweni lekutinhlelo kufanele ukuthi tiphakanyiswe ingabe nasibuka kulolu hlangothi le mali lethulwa yindvuna itawukhona yini ukuthi ilekelele kuleli hlangothi letfaka ekhatsi kuthuthukisa impilo yebantu labadzala kanjalo nebantfana labavalelwe
linyefa leli mfana wenkosi lesolikhulumisa lelingakehli kahle kule budget ngoba bakhulunywa ngebantu labadala ngona mthombo ngiyona dictionary yelive but kule budget akubonakali kahle kukunhle kunakekelela kwabo kodwa nje inhlala kahle ngale ka DPM kukahle ngala kule budget akabi ngilokuhle lesethemba ukuthi nakhona setawuhlala phansi sikhulume na minister mase debate ukuthi siphuma sibheke philolo hlangothi lolo ngilona kulinyefa nje mfana wenkosi ukuthi lo mthombo lokungona sikhuluma ngebantu abadala singeva kahle ku budget ukuthi kufika kuphi kodwa ke lithuba lisekhona ukuthi sisoyikhulumisa la sitawukwathi khona ukuthi siyikhulumisa sigcina kuphi mfana wenkosi
sibonga kakhulu sothu isikhathi sakho lisuku libelule
siyabonga
lo ke mbukele khabe kathe kulunga leParliament lasesigwe umhlonishwa David Cruiser Ncampalala kanzi ke eceleni kwami sekuvele kunalabo achamuka khona emabhanga kanjalo nayo indvuna yelitiko letemafa kodwa engingakafiki ukuthatha labo labachamuka emabhanga ikhona ilunga leParliament lasemanzini North umhlonishwa Sifiso Mashayengonjane wakanhlengehlwa le ngidawukhulumisana naye ngive ukuthi ingabe yena uthini uthi ibudget ihambe kanjani kanzi ke mbukele ekhaya sithemba ukuthi utawuthokota sekuyaphithitela la ngikhona khona ngiloyo muntu sofuna kubamba wakakhe locamukile nalabo lengibabekile ukuthi ngiyakhulumisana siyavusela kakhulu umhlonishwa Nhlengeni
siyavusela msakade njani nababukele emakhaya
umhlonishwa na ibudget seyiphumile ingabe umhlonishwa uyikhaze injani ucabanga ukuthi ngitiphi inhlangothi leti tsinze kahle indvuna
cha sabona msakade nangive kahle indvuna ikhulume ukuthi iconze kokwakha imisebenzi le budget lokho nguthathe akubuka kwaba indvo lenkulu ukuthi iyayisekela ke imisebenzi ngoba kude imisebenzi evela newokuthi ke nasibuka ke nasi tindvo letitsinza abantu lemakhaya kakhulu njengaka community development sikhulelo ukuthi ususile ku165 yagibela yaya bo 300 million la khona sibuka ukuthi le misebenzi lecishe lekhaya lama infrastructure nama bridges laba wabukiye kakhulu lesive lemakhaya kutawukwendeka kule budget lekhona ngaloko msakade ngasho ukuthi lenguboneke kuyi-challenge kakhulu ngaba kunayi i-deficit leya 5.02 ukuthi ngabe sifune siyisebente kakhulu singile parliament ngaba ngiloko nje ukuthi le deficit vele isiniketa ukuthi sifune siyibambise kakhulu indvune sibone indlela ukuthi ivale kanjani ukhona ukuthi le budget la ithulile ibe accommodated
asibonga kakhulu mhlonishwa isikhathi sakho sethemba ukuthi lisuku litawuba luhle mhlonishwa
siyabonga msakade
mbukele ekhaya solo ke sihleli la siyabona ukuthi bantu lebe bakade bakhona baningi kakhulu ngiyababona nabachamuka ku private sector kanti ke eceleni kwami kunami mnumzane Siyaya ngithemba ukuthi utawuvuma ukukhuluma nami siyavusela Mr Siyaya msakadeni nangu sobalekile nangu umhlonishwa wasendronjeni ngimahlale Kotasi Raymond wakadlamini siyakwamukela mhlonishwa la emsakadeni iChile Maswati mhlonishwa siyakuvusela siyanivusela endronjeni ngicela usonzele mhlonishwa la siyavusela mhlonishwa
sithathele ithuba sivusele msakade
Asibonga kakhulu Mhlonishwa, sibonge ukuthi sengenile enkulumeni yemaphakelo nayiva indvuna ikhuluma ngamaphakelo inetfulela ukuthi amaphakelo alomnyaka atawuma kanjani. La khomba ke kukhula ngaloku 3.6% if I'm not mistaken. Ingabe Mhlonishwa ukhanze amaphakelo kanjani? Cabanga ukuthi atawukhona yini kusilekelela sivele sisenvonjeni.
Induna lehloniphekile isithulele emaphakelo lathembisako esiveni. Ikakhulu iwakhele etikwa lokushidwa ngilomutse kwelithando. Luthando ithi induna iyouth kufuna ukuthi ibenefit kule budget. Balimi kufuna ukuthi ba benefit. I-health system kufuna ukuthi benefit. I-education system kufuna i-benefit. So sibuka ukuthi iyethembisa le budget ikakhulu na ubuka phela i-unemployment rate kuthi setulu eveni ikakhulu kubantu labasha na ubuka phinze uqathanisa ipopulation yethu i-average age na uyibuka i-around 22 years lokusho ukuthi ipopulation yethu inebantu labanyenti labasha so ke isombululo letibhekiswe kulolo hlangothi sitithabela kakhulu enduneni lehloniphekile ikakhulu ngoba phela kutawusita kakhulu labantu labasha siyathanza lokuthi sisho lokuthi nabo basonzele dvute bakhone ukuthola lokuthi yini lokukhona lokubekelwe bona ukuze bakhone ukusitakala. Nasibuka ke ku agriculture ikhulumile indvuna ngendzaba ukuthi ufuna kubukwe ukuthi lesifo lesikhona se foot and mouth sitholakala kanjani sombululo. Uyathembisa lokuthi ema vaccines lata ukhona ukuthi asenjetiswe balimi kuze lesifo sivimbeke nanathi sikhona ukuthi sihloniphe lokuthi nakusitwe lokho singakwendi sikhona lokuthi sikubambe singakwendi. Naku education system ke siyibonile ibudget cha ibudget lekahle iyakhombisa ukuthi nema scholarships ataba khona siyakubonga lokho uhulumende wembube emhlaba through Minister Finance lokuthi tinto leti njalo letawusita labantu ikakhulu ngoba abantu labasha ngibola bakhona ke education system siyasabela silive sikuthi tinto leti njalo tibe khona for labantu bani.
Asibonga kakhulu Mhlonishwa isikhathi sakho lisuku libelohle.
Sibonge kakhulu msakazi.
Mbukele ekhaya kumatima la njengoba ubona kukamera yethu kuhle kuba khona labajubako ngenxa ukuthi wonke umuntu ubhizi uyaphithitela kunalabashutha titfombe nayo induna yelitiko letemafa Umhlonishwa Neal Rijkenburg kanti ke sinabo ke labahlukahlukene la labakhomba ukuthi bede khona ke la kiyo inkulumo yengwenyama kanti ke inkulumo yenduna yelitiko letemafa kanti ke baningi lengida ukukhulumisana nabo la kulesikhathi sanyalo mbukele ekhaya ngisacelile ukuthi bangifuneleke labanye lengibadzingako ukhaza ukuthi ke bahamba angikhona ukuthi ngibatfole ngenxa yokuthi kude umlothu talo tangitholela yabona kodwa ke ngiyethemba ukuthi ngidawugcina ngibatfolile ke labo lengibadzingako lokufaka ekhathi bona labachamuka ku private sector ugcineke ahambile umnumzane Siyale bengithembile ukuthi ngitamtfola la kodwa ke siyethemba mbukele ekhaya ukuthi eMaswati akhonile ukuyithola kahle inkulumo yayo indvuna sisayalethela yona ke bukhoma ngisenda ubamba ke bona ke bahlonishwa ngokwehlukana kwabo njengoba basaphuma ke ngekhathi endlini yeParliament kanti ke eMaswati lamahle njengoba ngishito okucala ukuthi indvuna ithuleke emaphakelo lang 36.9 billion wemalangeni ikhoba yakhula ngaloku 4.3 billion wemalangeni kanti ke ibandla lelibukeke emva kwami seyivele ikhona indvuna ihamba newaka minister siyavusela congratulations for the budget that you have been presenting today here to the Eswatini nation.
No, it's been a pleasure. It gets easier every year, and we believe this is the biggest budget ever, the biggest increase ever, and so it is quite a transformational budget.
Minister, after delivering the budget here, those who are speaking for government employees have stated that they have seen the budget that it's not enough for their money that is owed by government, the balance that was allocated, that they agreed with government that they will be getting this year. What happened?
I think they are wrong. What I'm saying is the Minister of Public Service has done the calculations very carefully, understanding that they mustn't make a mistake. The last year's budget was actually 10 billion. $500 million in last budget was for salary reviews, meaning that the increase from 10.5 to 11 to 12.4 is virtually $2.5 billion more. So if you look at the salary review exercise, There's 2.5 billion for the additionals and for the back pay. According to public service, it's fully covered.
Okay, thank you so much, Minister. What can you say to the Eswatini nation in terms of ensuring that job opportunities will be available this year?
If one goes through the speech, you'll see everywhere I'm touching on the amount of jobs, the amount of jobs, the amount of jobs. I'm very confident that this year's budget, by the end of this year, the job availability within Eswatini should have increased tremendously. And so the bottom line is, Eswatini that have not got jobs, don't give up. Continue knocking on the doors, continue pursuing opportunities. I'm very confident that that space is going to open up very well for Eswatini. I'm confident that our unemployment rate is going to drop dramatically within this next short period.
Thank you so much, Minister. Enjoy the rest of the day. That was the Minister for Finance, Honorable Neal Rijkenburg. He stated that civil servants shouldn't worry because the budget that he has presented has shown some growth, and he is sure that their balance will be catered for. Mbukele ekhaya induna elitiwe letemafakele besikhathi sikhulumisana iyaveta ukuthi ti70 tembuso atingakhazateki imali yato tyakhona ukuthi tiyitfole ngekubala kwalo litiko le public service. Kanti ke eceleni kwami sewuvele likhona ilunga leParliament laseDokodweni umhlonishwa kwanto yini ukuthi ligaba lakho libaleke buya mhlonishwa Hazel Shabalala ngosifiso Hazel wakashabalala siyavusela mhlonishwa.
No, asivusele Kimbali, sivusele nabo babukeli be-channel eMaswati.
Mhlonishwa induna seyithulile inkulumo yayo maphakelo njengelunga leParliament laseDokodweni yini loyibuthile kula maphakelo endvunene ukuthi ke umhlonishwa ucabanga ukuthi sibe seMaswati sitawulekeleleka kanjani kula maphakelo lathulwe ngeyo indvu.
Ngicabanga ukuthi lesikuthathile Kimbali kungaba kubuka ukuthi siyayibongela indvuna. Sibongele nje kakhulu kutothula le budget speech lenhle kangaka. Uyayibona lokuthi ihambelana nekokuthi ingwenyama isithume ini. But ke lokukhulu kakhulu bangathi uyanaka lamaphakelo aconze ukuthuthukisa live nekuvula emathuba emsebenzi ngoba nawubala nje lokunengi kuyayithinza ijob creation kungabe kuvula kwakhiwa kwemadamu kwakhiwa kwemafem tonke lento leto nje ithinza ijob creation nekubuka ke tempilo nawubuka ke imali letifakiwe lokusho ukuthi kuyahambelana neliphupho la ingwenyama ukuthi etibhedlela ayibe khona imithi so ifakiwe ke nemali ke khona mavuso so siyathemba lokuthi kutawusebenzeka uma ke ubuka ke lokunye ke lokukhulu uphinzeke watsinza netindzaba tekuthi kusata kwakhiwa tindlu letinenge talabo labadzingile kunetindzawo letinenge ke letikhombisa great improvement nawubuka the capital projects uwabalile nawo lesithembako lokuthi nakaphelako ngoba incumbi yawo lamanye ayaphela kulomnyaka lo lamanye aphela kulomnyaka lamanye sitawacedza ku2028 bonke nje bo all reserve mathuba emsebenzi nokuthuthukisa umnotho welive utsinzile netiteshi tabo gesi kokuthi gesi njalo kusiva kokuthi singeMaswati gesi vele simfuna ehle kakhulu ngoba asikhoni but ke nasitawukhona usithi khicitele sitawukhona lokuthi sikhona ukuafforda noma ngangibani akhona ukutsinziwe ke nako lokho kokuthi senema substation lamanye lakhiwe asatakwakiwa lamanye factory shells siyathe eMaswati ukuthi i-factory shell inye ukhanze siyabathatha maybe labalabo 200 to 300 atakwakiwana lamanye asakhiwe nakhona lapho mathuba emsebenzi bese kuthi ke lokunye temfundo nato leto titsinziwe tahamba phambili lamaphakelo nawabuka nje impela ayatsinza eMaswati so siba seDokodweni nje siyabona lokuthi temnotho titawukhula kakhulu uma singabambisana lemikhono lemithathu lokuyi icabinet kube iParliament seyijudicial sibambele live ngebuqotho silandzele yonke imigomo yakhona siyethemba lokuthi lokunenge kutawusisebenzela sengena ke Kimbali kunanale kaMikelitiko ke velele ngingishemeni kulo lema sports nakhona emaphakelo akhona akhulile lokubonakalako lokuthi sitsinza netindzaba te-youth i-youth kubonile ke lokuthi kunalabo youth fund ingwenyama yakubeka kwacaca lokuthi abantu labasha abathole indlela yetikhwama lapho batawucala khona imisebenzi. Kuvelile ke nakule budget ke lokuthi cha batawusitakala nabo likhule lezinga lebantu labasha labatawukhona ukuthi bathole imisebenzi ngenzaba ukuthi bacala emabhizinisi. Letikhwama tikhona minister utivetile lokuthi titaba accessible. But nje kufuna nje thine siqiniseke kakhulu ukuthi kulungiswe lama policies ukuthi basheshe batithole ngoba ngitona tingumgogodla wokuthuthukisa lelive.
Siyabonga kakhulu umhlonishwa sengibambe na induna yelitiko letekulima umhlonishwa Chauke kumbe utasitekela ukuthi singabe sibambe phi ngenzaba FMD.
Ya nalo lelo litiko lelimcoka kakhulu esilisekela kusimalungu eParliament ngoba ifood security uvile nakhona kutsinziwe. Siyamsupporta minister kakhulu with agriculture and singamalungu eParliament siyalithanza lelichaza eladlalile eveni sitakwena ngato tonke tindlela ukuthi leti mali allocatiwe ka agriculture likhona live ukuthi lichume ngabe tempilo ekulimeni imfuyo nako konke so nje siyambongela minister lokuthi bam allocate le budget lengasayiphasisa futhi.
Asibonga kakhulu umhlonishwa lelo bekulunga leParliament laseDvukudweni umhlonishwa Sifiso Hezo wakashabalala sekuvele ke kunendvuna yelitiko letekulima umhlonishwa Mandla Chauke le ndawo ukukhulumisana yeke nyalo la emsakadweni siyavusela umhlonishwa ekseni.
Siyavusela msakadi siyavusela nasesiveni seNgwenyama sivusele kakhulu balimi bese sivusela nabasemkhiweni.
Siyabonga sithemba ukuthi nemkhiweni uyajabula ukuthi wakhetha lichalachala labonakala ukuthi ingwenyama ibone ukuthi lithungo leyingalusebenzisa mhlonishwa na indvuna seyiwathulile emaphakelo engabe indvuna iyajabula yeningawo ukuthi itawukhona kulilekelela litiko etingcinambeni lelibhekene nato lokufaka ekhathi nayi FMD lehlasele live lokufaka ekhathi kona kushoda kwekudla eveni siyakhumbula ukuthi uthi nelitiko nifuna kulwela ukuthi live libe nakukuthiwa is food sovereignty lokusho ukuthi kudla lokwanele lokutawugcina kuphumela nakubomakhelwane sikuthengisela amanye emave sitawukhona nesilive ukuthi siye ngakhona ukuthi sithi khiqidele kudla lokwanele nelo sitakugcina sikuthengisa ukuthi ke nasimo lesisehlakalo lesihlaselelo na live ngeFMD sitawukhona yini ukuthi simelane naso kwekugcina ukuthi sive sasemkhiweni sona sitawujabula yini ngale budget siyathi ukuthi ibudget ifuna ithinze kakhulu nanaba abantu labale ngaphandle labahamba estradini.
Siyabonga msakadi sibonga kakhulu sicela kubonga endvuneni yaka finance ukuthi thule emaphakelo lesi besishito ekseni ukuthi sibheke ekutheni baphakelo kube ngilawo latawusitati tidzingo tesife lekakhulu ngoba lo mudze welive ubekela umkhombandlela lothi kufanele sendeni esiveni kuze impilo yesive ibe ngcono. Siyabona ke ukuthi le budget speech vele iya lapho. Ubuya ke embutweni wakho silitiko sithole ibudget lengaka 2.2 billion 1.4 billion waleyo mali uya ekwakheni kwelidamu lokuthiwa impakeni dam leshiselweni. Siyajabula ke ukuthi indvuna ishito ukuthi le damu lihamba kahle seliku 44% complete vele ke leku program ukuthi tawuphela ngesikhathi futhi within budget loku 2028 lesikujabulela ke ngilokuthi vele leyo mali itawusita ukuthi ngoba leya is an integrated system tawuba nalokuningi lokutawendeka khona lokufaka ekhathi kulima lokufaka ekhathi bo ecosystem ukufaka ekhathi kuphethla nje labo gesi so umsebenzi wethu ucethela leyo damu ngaleso sikhathi so sinyathelo lesimcoka lesiyakhona la vele ingwenyama ethitha siye khona kulenzabe food sovereignty for instance siyajabula ukuthi indvuna ibalulile kakhulu ukuthi iwethu sebende nganani ngahamba ubuye tinombolo letibalile indvuna tiyajabulisa lebevele nathi besitart sithi jabulela ukuthi lapho khona iwethu abambile ngahamba ubuye kuba namehluko efeni. Siyajabula ke ukuthi nokuba akayibali le mali lengenako kuhamba ubuye siyathi thina sibesicela 14 million sacela na 40 million siyethemba ke ukuthi ngophela bayangena emathunjini yale budget nasesingena emathunjini itaba khona le mali bese siyathemba noside bahlonishwa batasiphasisela futhi ke bahlonishwa basiphasisele ngekuthi le mali isheshe iphume kuze ukuthi singashiywa ngumdzaka bethi bakhona tikhathi ngaphambili okhanza ukuthi le mali ikhona kodwa bese ayisaphumi ngesikhathi bese ilitulu liyana lendlula sebantu sebaphuma muva kuyethafeni bolima ngokuthi imali seyifike late bese baze bakhandwe nalilanga ngokuthi ngibencenye imali ku head 60 noma ibe njani so siyacela ke lokuthi bahlonishwa basibambise isheshe iphume kuze kuthi nakuthwasa hlobo nje bese setadleni tebalimi kuze bakhone kulima baphile. Lokunye lesikujabulele ngilokuthi indvuna ibalile indzaba yema grain reserves lakhiwa nge-NMC. Nakhona lapho it's an integrated program, akusiko nje letingungu kuphela. Saphinza silimise labantu labakhona evele kuze bato supply kuleti ngungu. Sendela kona ukuthi vele sifuna kufika kule food sovereignty. Indzaba commercial farming nekulima sinisele imcoka ngoba lelanga leli nje lisikhanza because side kokunisela libata silimo tilimo telive. Lesicela lokunye ngilokuthi njengoba indvula isiphakela ka-FMD sive sesibambise kulwa nalesifo. Vele usho sibili lesifo sesilimate umnotho weMaswati kakhulu. Kodwa ke simtholile 15 million lesitamsebenzisa ekuvuseni botindalata. Luhlelo lokuvusa tindalata belukhona kadzeni. Kodwa lwalimala ngesikhathi seCovid. Acala imali ukudiverteka tilo naso sihlakalo. Sehlakalo tangasakhona ngekubuyela kahle lokubange ukuthi bese tindalata yatiwa tibatindeni. Sibalile ke sakhanza ukuthi imali sidinga konyalo kubuyele ukutheni live lonke livikeleke vele isabalele around 80 million. Kodwa ke lo 15 million dollar is a very good start. Sitawuqhubeka nathi sicela etinini intengwenyama sitongeta usincele imali igcine inyuka baka FAO nje basethembisa 6 million sitamhambela sethembe ukuthi utawutholakala naye angene sivuse tindalata live livikeleke. Bese ke eminyakeni lotako siyaqhubeka siyafaka kuze uthi in 3 years lonke live livikelekile. Lokunye sikujabulelako ngile mali yema vaccines lokwenda ukuthi sitawukhona ukuthi sicedzele lo hlelo sesivele siluqalele national mass vaccinations sojova tonke inkomo eveni kuze livikeleke kuze lesifo singaqhubeki sibhebheteleke. Siyajabula ke sikhutha lwandle ukuthi okandaba nakavula iParliament wasitshela ukuthi asihambe siyobukana kulendzawo la singathola khona imithi. Sesititholile ikhona imithi ku South Arabia ikhona ku Argentina tawunda lokuthi noma ngabe so kuba ne-interruption ye-supply eBotswana ibe khona alternative lesingathatha khona imithi. Sithemba ukuthi ngalawo mandla netinhlelo sisinqoba lesifo masinyane. Siyabonga.
Asibonga kakhulu mina cishe uphendule yonke imibuto yami.
Siyabonga. Uthite basemkhiweni. Emkhiweni kakhulu sijabulela indzaba yemali. Indvuna ishito ukuthi emandi kufuna ahambe aye emaveni esiveni sonke. Thineke emkhiweni sivele sinemali lesiwabukile fana qhamuke ngemapalaleni. Siyethemba ukuthi ngoba bokhona besikufakile nakhona nasesingene emathunjini ale budget sayithola le mali yokusukumisa lohlelo lwemali asemkhiweni. Siyabonga.
Siyabonga kakhulu umhlonishwa ngumhlonishwa Mandla Chawo ke lebe ngathi ngikhulumisana naye kanti ke kulesikhathi sanyalo ngawumukela indvuna yelitiko lete kuvakashana letindzaba temvelo umhlonishwa Jane Mkhonda Simelane. Siyavusela umhlonishwa namhla emini yaNsambama sithemba ukuthi umhlonishwa uhambe kahle kumaphakelo. Ngidawucela nje indvuna kafishane usho lokho longakusho ngemaphakelo lathuleke ngiyo indvuna yelitiko letemafana ukuthi iyalisinza kanjani ihlangothi lete kuvakasha kafishane indvuna yenkosi.
Asivusele kumbukeli ekhaya ngivetele kokuthi ndawuqala nje. Ngawuqala ngekubongela yona indvuna yetemafa ngendlela letfule ngayo emaphakelo alonyaka. Iwathule ngelicophelo lelisetulu yawabuka onke ema-ministries yakubuka konke kusebenta kwahulumende. Sibonga nje lokuthi emaphakelo indvuna yetemafa lewatfulako ngemaphakelo lahamba ngco enkulumeni yengwenyama. Utitsinze tonke tingoni letatsinva ingwenyama. Loku ngikona kutawusenda lokuthi lokushiwo ingwenyama nembala sithi nkwekiko silivela kangwane. Etindzabeni ke taka tourism konke kufaka sandla lesikhulu etindzabeni tekuvakasha netemvelo ngoba na utsinza umgwaco utsinza indlela ye-tourist letawuhamba kiyo. Uma utsinza indzaba yesibhedlela utsinza impilo ye-tourist naselila kangwane ukuthi aliphatheke kahle liphile. Kunengi nje utsinza temidlalo utsinza tivakashi letitawuta titele imidlalo kangwane. Nekokuthi ke vele lokula kuphakele kusikhava kabanti thine baka tourism. nekusho lokho ukuthi ube sesogcila ngqo kenyalo endzabeni yekusebenta kwe-ICC i-International Convention Center nasi sakhiwo lesila ezulwini lesisibona nasengca ngemgwaqo. Kunemaphakelo ke lacondzene naleso sakhiwo ke sitawube sivulwa ngalokho semthethweni mhla ka-25 April sivulwa ngiso silo. Lokusho kona lokho ukuthi sesitawuqala kenyalo sisebenzise lesakhiwo. Kusebenta kwaso lesakhiwo kutawungenisa ema-tourist even kungeni kwakhele tinombolo letingitona tiyi-target yetfu. Kuphindze futhi kusingenisele imali even lokuthi asingenisela le mali lengiyona kuyi-target yetfu yelive. Netiphindze futhi wafaka imali nakhona kubo-environment. Usiyati ke lokho ukuthi impilo yemuntu, impilo yalo lonke eliswati igcile kakhulu kulo mhlabathi lahleli kiwo lokho ukuthi lo mhlaba lahleli kiwo emanti latawanatha tihlahla yonke lento mele kuhlobe nemoya la uphefumulako mele uhlobe kutawumenta lo muntu ukuthi aphile netibhedlela nato kutawutenda ukuthi bantu baphile kwendeke lokho ukuthi sibe nesivele siphilile sivele sijabulile sivele sitawukhona ukuthi tiye nakuletakhiwo tetfu lesitakhile dihambe futhi tiyovakashela netikhungo tetinyamatane ngoba sive siphilile sijabulile.
Asibonga kakhulu Mhlonishwa, sibonga isikhathi sakho.
Siyabonga.
Le bekatse kuyinduna yelitiko lete kuvakashana nendzaba temvelo kunasomnotfo Themnkosi wakadube. Mhlonishwa ngicela ukuthi nite nasomnotfo ngicela ngasomnotfo bese sengilandzela ngayo Mhlonishwa. Induna seyikhona induna yelitiko leti-7 tembuso uMhlonishwa Mabulala Maseko. Siyavusela nduna yenkosi.
Siyavusela Khembali, siyavusela Mavuso.
Mhlonishwa sibonile ukuthi indvuna kafishane nje minister indvuna ikhulumile ngemaphakelo yatsinza ke nendzaba ukuthi ikhona ibudget yekunika 7 tembuso lekunginyona lona ngevalo elikhulu kito 7 letibukwe ngeyo indvuna. Ingabe indvuna ingathini kuloko kafishane nje minister ngiyalibona line lami ukuthi liyachubeka liyasutha ngale kulabantu labafuna ukukhuluma la emsakadweni.
Ukuthi public service singaphamisa nje kubonga kakhulu ekusekelweni ngundunakulu ngu-DPM icabinet yonke kanye neparlament kusendiwa liphakelo licondzana ne-public service. Utawukhumbula ke ukuthi i-public service li-part of ama-central ministries lokusho ukuthi umsebenzi lesiwendako si-public service mkhulu kakhulu ikakhulu etindzabeni te-human resource yakahulumende. Kungaba kuveta nje ukuthi i-budget yethu inyukile from 10.4 billion to 12.4 billion. Kusho ukuthini ke lokho? Kusho ukuthi inyuke nga 2 billion. Sitawukhona ke ukuthi sende full implementation isa review. Utawukhumbula ukuthi late last year sisitena sesi implement isa review sakhona kubhadala 15% i-back pay of which lo 85% utawukhetharisheka kule budget leseyikhona. Nema housing allowance asikakhoni kwa implement especially lawo lamasha kepha ke nawo kwesekutaba nale full implementation. Sikhutha nje liba yethe sibonga uhulumende wonke tisebenta kahulumende ikakhulu ekutheni lesakhuluma se-public service sithunywa nguhulumende sitawuma emagameni ethu sibanike lo besibathembise kona siyohlala vele sihlala etivumelaneni singakhweshi kudo neke ukuthi nje indzaba yabothishela yebo ayisi-budget le enough siyathi ukuthi kunema-conversions from lama contracts to permanent and pensionable positions nakhona siyafuqa siyathemba ukuthi sitawugcina sikwente konke siyabonga.
Mhlonishwa indzaba lenye lebakhulume ngayo labachamuka ke-70 indzaba yokuthi indzaba ye-salary ingathi indzaba ye-cost of living adjustment abakayiboni kule budget ingabe ikhona yini?
Tindzaba tabo cost of living yes athi sitole singathi khuluma lapha tibate litafula bawukhulumisana etafuleni kwanyalo senta le full implementation yesa review. Lokunye kutakhona etafuleni.
Asibonga kakhulu Mhlonishwa. Lo bekathe kulunga leParliament lasemaphalaleni indvuna yelitiko leti-7 tembuso. Njengoba bengishito ke maswati lamahle ukuthi ukhona somnotfo la umnumzane Themnkosi wakadube lo tasichazela nje ukuthi njengabo somnotfo nababuka lamaphakelo akhomba ukuthi vele ngiloko libakupredicta yini njengabo somnotfo. Siyavusela mzomba namhla ekseni.
Angivusele umsakati ngivusele sive semaswati lesibukela Eswatini TV.
Sibonga kakhulu i-channel yeMaswati ngiliyalekile ngoyole Dube. Siyabonga kakhulu Dube isikhathi sakho. Na induna siyiwathulile emaphakelo. Ingabe niwakhanza ukuthi imaphakelo kanjani? Akhona yini ukuthinza impilo yesive? Ata ukhona yini ukuthi sive akhona ukuthi thuthukisa in terms of ukuthi imali ivakale emakhikhini njengoba sonke isikhathi induna nayikhipha emaphakelo kuthiwa amaphakelo anyukile kodwa ke sive singayiva le mali ukuthi nemali amaphakelo anyukile.
Ngiyabonga msakade. Angicale kanje. Ngincesile ukuthi ngithi ngiphambanise amagama ngokuthi kubhizi kuyaphithitela. Nasingakhuluma ngendzaba ye-budget speech kokuqala ukuthi mina ngingathi bavile ukukhala kwaMaswati kulolo kusho. Nangisilalela bavile ukukhala kwaMaswati angibeke ukuthi bakhala ngani. Sikhala ngemisebenzi khona labakushito kuloko. Sikhala ngekudula kagesi khona labakushito ngaloko. Sikhala ngefutele khona labakushito ngaloko. Sikhala ngetemfundo khona labakushito ngaloko. So ngingathi mina bevile balalele beva yebo bayazama ukucaca kodwa njengobantu phela ungakhanza sithi hayi akwenele kodwa nje kukhona lokunenge labakushito.
Nasibuka ke Dube itawuthi sive seMaswati uyasinzela ukuthi eMaswati kusho ukuthi evakele ukuthi akhala ngani. Nasibuka le budget lendlela induna leyithule ngayo iyakhombisa yena ukuthi umnotho welive vele utawuchubeka nalokukhula njengoba induna isho. Nalo ukuthi ke ithinze indzaba ukuthi umnotho waseSwatini ukhula kakhulu la ngekhathi compared to ema-SACCO receipts. Ingabe vele lokho kusho ukuthini silive kusho ukuthi direction le kahle yini lokuthi umnotho wethu uchamuka ngala ngekhathi.
Yindvo lekahle kakhulu lokho bekusona sifiso sethu nemithandazo yethu nangathi umthandazo bosomnotho ukuthi live kuhle lokusilitimele ngoba i-customs iyakhuphuka yehle kanti nakukhona indvo le steady income noma ke steady way of sustaining itself as a country ukhanza ukuthi noma ngabe simo sesikabi ngaphandle noma kanjani live solo liyachubeka liphambili. So lokho is one of the things we appreciate and we applaud as economists ukuthi live selifunzile seliyakhona ukutimela futhi sifisa ngathi lingagcina le sustain igcine le customs i-caution nje ukuthi soyingenile imali kodwa sibe sesime kahle sonke silive.
Sibonga kakhulu Dube sithemba ukuthi sitawulungisa imibuto lenye sikucele utochaza kahle enhlelweni tethu temsakade.
Ngiyabonga msakade umsaleni kahle.
Loyo bekathi ungithemba Nkosi Dube lo ngusomnotho walapha eveni laseSwatini sithemba ukuthi Maswatini vile ukuthi uthi somnotho le nkulumo yendvuna ingiyona lemnanzi kakhulu esiveni seMaswati. Uyethemba ukuthi impilo teMaswati tawutsinzeka kahle kakhulu ngale nkulumo lekhulunywe ngiyo indvuna yelitiko letema. Mbukele ekhaya sengimele nje ukuthi bangitshele ukuthi ngabe vele siyagoqota yini kusakada kwethu noma ngichubeke ngithathe labo lesingakhulumisana kodwa ke ngiyabona ukuthi kunelunga leParliament lasemthongwaneni nathi mdokiswa kaHlophe ngale ngemva kwaluse camereni yami ngiyethemba ukuthi utangipha yena sikhulumisane naye sive ukuthi ingabe uthini Maswati lamahle kodwa ke sekufanele ukuthi ngigoqode ngiye kito tindzaba temhlaba letawuba khona ke ngesikhathi first one sithemba ukuthi lokunengi sitakuthola khona ke njengoba ilunga leParliament lasemthongwaneni selivele lathi hayi no asichubeke naletinye inhlelo. Maswati lamahle libito lami ke ngikhimbali ngamavuso sibongo ngihamba namlandvo wakaMathulana Dynamis Matimba. Siyabonga wakadlamini bese kulethela bukhoma nangumsebenzi wekuthulwa kwamaphakelo alo live sithemba ukuthi eMaswati atawuyiva le mali lethulwe ngiyo induna yelitiko letemafa njengoba sikashito somnotho welive. Lokunye lengingakusho ukuthi uvetile ke nangisakhulumisana naye induna yelitiko leti-7 tembuso ukuthi cha nangemambala ti-7 tembuso titayitfola leyo balance washo ukuthi indzaba ye-cost of living adjustment batayikhuluma khona ke etafuleni. Maswati lamahle chubekani nibe nekutsamela kuhle enhlelweni letilandzelako umsakazo oyishayele eMaswati uthi nibusiseke nakulolu suku kanti-ke kusasa sitabe sikulethela bukhoma umsebenzi wawo umkhosi webuganu lo mhlanzambama sitabe sikulethela ke khona etindzabeni kokuthi ingabe libutho lichitha njani ke wona ke lithula njani bona buganu kuyo indlovu yemhlaba. Sithemba ukuthi eMaswati atawuya ngetinkhani ke emsebenzini omkhulu welive kanjalo nokuthi ahloniphe futhi lowo msebenzi lotawube uchubeka. Hayi ke Maswati lamahle nebenkosi lenhleni nebamswati lomnyama kulabalithuli nebalodungandaba wasembelebeleni mkhephula ngejozi igazi lapha la nebengungule emnyama lembethe intsaba temtsimba nebembubele yaphodle ntsabeni tawo umtsimba timbiwa taphuma busakala la isale kahle nibe nebuye uhle nisale letanzako bayithe wena phakathi.